Tonight was the final SmackDown before SummerSlam. What is going on, guys? Friday night. Tomorrow night. First ever July SummerSlam. Doesn't feel right that SummerSlam is in July, but it is coming up tomorrow night. We're going to talk about that show tonight, and we're going to talk about SummerSlam predictions for tomorrow night's pay-per-view. That man right there on your screen, good old Randy, he's not supposed to be on the show. Or is he? I don't know. We'll do predictions. We'll cover SmackDown. We'll hang out. We'll take your super chats. We're going to have fun tonight. Kick back. It's going to be a lot of fun right here on the Solomonster Sounds Off channel. This is your Friday night SmackDown review, the go-home show to SummerSlam 2022. It is Friday, July 29. I am the Solomonster for the first SmackDown. Well, I guess technically it isn't the first SmackDown. I guess it's the second SmackDown. Although Vince McMahon, I'm sure, had last week's show all written and prepared already. But we are now in the midst of the Triple H era. We are in the midst of the Paul Levesque regime of SmackDown. Although I don't expect anything major to go down until tomorrow night. I would think that he has a few things up his sleeve. He wants to maybe shake things up a little bit, get people talking, coming out of SummerSlam this year. I have to tell you, it's not the strongest SummerSlam card I've ever seen on paper, but with this air of just this new future that we have to look forward to here in WWE, I find myself excited for tomorrow night. I am genuinely looking forward to SummerSlam tomorrow night. Not the most exciting SummerSlam card that I've ever seen, but I am very curious to see what Triple H has up his sleeve. And it is going to be a very busy weekend. This is just the beginning of it. But tonight was the final SmackDown where we crowned a number one contender for the WWE Universal Championship at Clash at the Castle in September. So SummerSlam hasn't even taken place yet. But we already know who's going to be challenging either Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar or Austin Theory for the championship in Cardiff in September. And so we're going to talk about what happened there. We're going to talk about Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan. We're going to talk about good old Double J, Jeff Jarrett, who is having a very big weekend himself. We're going to talk about Seth Rollins and Riddle being off the show and what that could mean for Seth Rollins at SummerSlam tomorrow night. I want to hear from you guys. I'm sure you guys have predictions for the pay-per-view. So send them on in if you want to get a super chat on in. I will be reading them a little bit later on. See what you guys think might happen tomorrow night at the SummerSlam, as Bret Hart would call. I have to do it the way the Bret Hart would. At the SummerSlam. I'm looking forward to the SummerSlam tomorrow night. But hit that like button if you would be so kind, because that does help the video out whenever you do so. I also just want to remind everybody about what we do have planned for this weekend. Of course, tonight we're talking SummerSlam predictions. But tomorrow night, we're going to be doing SummerSlam review. As soon as the pay-per-view goes off the air, you come back here for the live recap after 11 o'clock Eastern. We'll talk Roman Reigns against Brock Lesnar and all of the other goings-on tomorrow night. And we're also going to be talking about Ric Flair's final match. That comes on Sunday night. So you'll get episode 767 of the podcast during the day on Sunday, but then Sunday night is what they are billing as the final match of the Nature Boy. Ric Flair teaming up with Andrade El Idolo to take on Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal. I will tell you that the promos and the videos that have been produced by Conrad and his people in preparation for this main event on Sunday has been better than a lot of the stuff that I've seen on WWE television and the way they promote and really build up some of their own matches. So kudos to him and his team for putting that together. I've been digging the videos. I don't know if the match, will be able to necessarily match the videos, but should definitely be interesting for better or worse. We'll talk about that pay-per-view on Sunday night. So let's get into the SmackDown show tonight. SmackDown opened with a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match. Drew McIntyre one-on-one with Sheamus. We've seen these guys wrestle many, many times before. And every time Sheamus and McIntyre are in the ring together, it's always very good. I enjoy watching these two beat the hell out of each other. Tonight was no exception. They got to play with some toys tonight because of the stipulation. The winner would get a shot at the WWE Universal Championship up for grabs at Clash at the Castle. They had a bunch of kegs stacked up around ringside. This was my kind of match here. We had these giant barrels everywhere, and they had a little bar. Oh, they had shillelaghs too. How could I forget, right? Shillelagh was the weapon of choice. So they had shillelaghs all over ringside, and they had a little bar set up over by the announce desk. They had pictures of Sheamus, who they claim was Sheamus's great-great-grandfather and his great-great-grandmother on top of the bar. And I'm sure the bar was stocked with what is, I have to think, plenty of Guinness at the bar. So they fought around ringside. McIntyre came out, interrupting Sheamus's entrance. They start brawling, or maybe it was the other way around, but they start brawling here in the aisleway to kick things off. And it wasn't long into this match, the fans were already chanting for tables. So we've got the bar, right? We've got shillelaghs, we've got kegs, we've got all kinds of plunder, and the people want tables. The tables, after all these years, 20 plus years, still the most over superstar in WWE. I would argue all of wrestling. The table remains the most over star, no matter what promotion, no matter what the television show is. After all these years, they still chant for these frickin' tables. So McIntyre tossed Sheamus over the announce desk, and he gave the people what they wanted. He pulled out a table from underneath the ring. Sheamus cut him off and threw Drew into the ring steps. He propped the table up against the barricade over by the timekeeper's area. He grabbed the shillelagh that McIntyre had broke in half last week with his stupid sword, and he used it as a weapon on Drew. Took him back outside, tried to suplex him into that table, but Drew reversed it into a suplex of his own on the floor. So they go to a break. We had a couple of these during this match because it was a long match. Come back from the first break, Sheamus rocks McIntyre with a chair shot to the back. He tried for the white noise. McIntyre, though, escaped. He sent Sheamus into the corner to take over at that point. McIntyre ran wild with a belly-to-belly suplex. He threw a bunch of chairs into the ring, one right after the other. More chairs, more chairs. Now we have a pile of chairs sitting in the ring. Sheamus then, he's trying to fight back. And he takes one of the chairs and he basically shot puts it right at Drew's head. And he got his hand up, but it looked good. It sounded great. Caught him right in the head. Sheamus went for the white noise on the pile of chairs. McIntyre reversed it, though, into a future shock DDT onto the chairs for a very close near fall. Drew was in control. When Ridge Holland ran in, he whacked McIntyre with a shillelagh. No DQs. In a good old-fashioned Donnybrook, there's no disqualifications. Sheamus rocked McIntyre with a knee strike for a near fall. And Drew made a comeback. He sent Holland into the ring post, grabbed him, hit a belly-to-belly overhead throw into the table. So Holland goes through the table outside. And they cut to the second break of this opening match. You know you've got a long opener when you're already into the second commercial break of the show. Come back. McIntyre is setting up for a superplex. Sheamus cuts him off, crotches him on the ropes. And now McIntyre's in the Tree of Woe. McIntyre, though, sits up, grabs Sheamus, throws him overhead. Sheamus lands on the mat. McIntyre goes for the Claymore kick, but Sheamus avoided it. He put McIntyre down with an Alabama slam. Outside the ring, Sheamus tried to run McIntyre into the small bar that they had set up outside. McIntyre reversed it, though, and Sheamus went into the bar instead. Not the first time that an Irishman has been left face down at the bar. All of a sudden, who should show up? Well, we know it's not Ridge Holland because he's already been dispatched. No, it's Butch. And Butch is standing on top of one of the barrels and he dives onto McIntyre. Sheamus broke a bar stool over Drew's back. Back in the ring, Sheamus hit white noise from the second rope for another near fall. People were into this. Now they were into every near fall, every time Drew kicked out. And again, it's hard when you watch, especially SmackDown. It's hard to sometimes decipher whether it's a real reaction or whether or not it's the piped-in boos or the piped-in cheers. They got so fond of doing that during the whole Thunderdome era. Usually you can look at the crowd and just know, if everybody is just sitting around on their hands and it sounds obnoxiously loud, that's usually a telltale sign. But the people in Atlanta here on this show, they were into this. They were enjoying this match. So Butch, he grabs a giant shillelagh, and this reminded me of a match many years ago on a pay-per-view. And it might have been Hell in a Cell. It was one of the pay-per-views in the fall. It might have been an October show. But there was a World Heavyweight Championship match, ironically involving Sheamus and The Big Show. And if you remember, maybe it was a chairs match. It might have been a chairs match. And Big Show had that obscenely large chair. It was like a giant chair. That's kind of what this reminded me of. We had this giant shillelagh that Butch passes to Sheamus. McIntyre ducks it, though. He puts Sheamus down with a Glasgow kiss. Butch runs in. McIntyre hits him with the shillelagh, then puts Butch down with a Claymore kick. But as soon as he puts Butch down with the Claymore kick, here comes Sheamus, and he catches him with a brogue. Hits the brogue kick, and down goes McIntyre, and McIntyre kicks out of the brogue kick. And that's got a great reaction from the crowd because nobody kicks out of the brogue kick. I've said before, two of the most protected finishers in the entire company, the brogue kick and the end of days from Baron Corbin. Virtually nobody kicks out of those moves. They have protected them for years, more than any other finish in this company. So that got a great reaction. Sheamus was sitting there and he was stunned. Fans chanted, "This is awesome." Sheamus tried for another brogue. McIntyre, though, when he came running in, scooped him up at a powerbomb position, and he put Sheamus through a table in the ring. McIntyre had this conflicted look on his face, though, as Sheamus was crawling over to a shillelagh to pick it up and use it as a weapon, and McIntyre ends up blasting Sheamus with a Claymore kick, and he pins him to punch his ticket to Cardiff. We already knew this, but we went through the motions, and they were able to get a few weeks out of this. They teased this match over and over and over, and then finally this was the culmination. I would have saved this for SummerSlam, but I'm not going to argue it if they want to have a smaller card, right? Because when it comes to WrestleMania, one of the reasons I don't mind the two-night WrestleMania so much now is because I'd much rather have a two-night WrestleMania than a one-night 7-hour show. So if they don't want to fill SummerSlam with 10 or 12 different matches and have a smaller, shorter show, I'm okay with that. But it feels weird not to have this when 24 hours later is one of your biggest pay-per-views of the year. And now Drew McIntyre is not on the show. Sheamus is not on the show. There's a lot of people missing, actually, from SummerSlam this year. AJ Styles is not on the show. Matt Riddle, they have a storyline injury now. He's been taken off the show. So there's actually quite a few names that are missing. But this was their usual excellent match, and I mentioned how long the match was. They gave these guys in this opener here 25 minutes to go out there and do their thing, so it was like a pay-per-view match. And to be honest with you, they probably would not have had this much time. If this was on SummerSlam tomorrow night, they'll give 25 minutes of the bigger matches on the show. This would not have gotten 25 minutes at SummerSlam. So even though you had the commercial breaks that kind of, obviously the commercial breaks in a long match, it kind of takes you out of it a little bit. But this was the first SmackDown, officially SmackDown, of the Triple H era. And we open up with a 25-minute match instead of a 25-minute promo. I could get used to this. So after the match, Kayla Braxton gets in the ring. And she interviews McIntyre, and he tells Sheamus, he's looking into the camera when he's saying it. I don't know where Sheamus is, but he's looking into the camera and he says, Sheamus, this didn't have to be this way. He said somebody has to take that championship off the part-time champion. And before he can get another word out, he gets clobbered in the head from behind by Austin Theory with his Money in the Bank briefcase. And Theory then proceeds to beat McIntyre down several times. I mean, he's really laying those shots in with that briefcase. He's beating the hell out of McIntyre with this thing. And the fans booed Theory, even though they were in Atlanta, and Theory is from Atlanta, but there was no hometown pop for Theory on this show. I think that's going to come back to bite him a little bit later on here in the review. This was not the last that we saw of either of these men. But again, the opening match was excellent. It's the best thing on the entire show. So after this, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee are at ringside. The camera cuts back to them. And the two of them are running down the SummerSlam card for tomorrow night. As they are getting into the SummerSlam card, we see Baron Corbin, Happy Corbin, is walking up to the front row behind the announcers. He's got a ticket in his hand. He's got his stupid hat on, but he's got a ticket. And he's got his bowl of popcorn. Pat McAfee stands up, and McAfee is ready to throw down with this guy, but he's got a ticket. He's a fan, right? You can't hit a fan. But he doesn't just have the ticket and the popcorn. He also is carrying a sign with him that has the word loser on it, and it has the mugshot for Pat McAfee. Because many years ago, McAfee was arrested. And so here it is. This is the Pat McAfee mugshot. I want to say this was from, what a shot. I want to say that this was from 2010. And the story on that is that he was arrested for public intoxication when he decided to take a swim in an Indianapolis canal. And apparently whatever he blew into the breathalyzer, I think, was twice the legal limit, and obviously very embarrassing. And so Corbin is at ringside with a giant sign that has his mugshot. And so he is just completely trolling this guy, and there's nothing that McAfee could do because Cole says, look, you can't touch him because he's got a ticket. So you can't put your hands on this guy. So that was how they were able to justify Pat McAfee not jumping over the barricade and popping this guy in the mouth. So they went to a break. And when they come back from break, Corbin is still sitting behind them. He is still heckling them. He's heckling McAfee. They're trying to run down the SummerSlam card. I actually thought this was pretty funny. Now, it got obnoxious after a while, but you could tell Michael Cole couldn't concentrate on what he was saying. He got annoyed. He turned around and said, "Can you shut up? We're trying to run down this card." He's trying to talk about Peacock tomorrow night. He can't say anything because all Corbin is doing is just completely trolling and heckling Pat McAfee. So finally, after they get through the entire card, Corbin stands up. He throws all of his popcorn in McAfee's face. Now officials have run down to try to defuse the situation before things get out of hand. And he hops over the barricade, Corbin does. And the officials are getting between them. And when McAfee has his back turned, Corbin comes up from behind and kicks him in the crotch. And down goes Pat McAfee, and he's moaning and he's selling it. And Michael Cole on commentary is freaking out, like, "What have you done?" I'm like, "You just kicked him in the balls. It's not that deep." He was losing his mind. But Corbin laughed it off, and that is how they ended the segment going into the next break. We come back. Austin Theory is in the back. He's got his Money in the Bank briefcase. Kayla Braxton finds him, asks him, what's going on here? Why did you do what you did to Drew McIntyre? And Theory says he's sick and tired of being treated like a punching bag. Says that he's the future two-time U.S. champion, two-time U.S. champion. Money in the Bank winner. Says guys like Bobby Lashley and Dolph Ziggler and Madcap Moss are just jealous of him. He's going to cash in tomorrow night and become the new undisputed champion. Said Brock Lesnar may have laid him out last week and Roman might have attacked him on Monday, but none of that is going to stop him from becoming the champion. So as he's walking off, he runs into Paul Heyman. And Heyman puts his arm around him as they're walking off and starts talking to him, and they cut back to the commentators at ringside. So McAfee is still there. He is back on headset, but he is selling his balls. So all we heard about on Monday were Miz's balls, right? We heard about Miz's testicles in the Logan Paul segment Tonight, poor Pat McAfee got kicked in the balls, and he was sitting there nursing his injury, but like the trooper that he is, he soldiered on, and he sat in for the rest of the show. So up next was Shotzi Blackheart taking on Aliyah. Now, originally, if you remember, this was supposed to be Aliyah taking on Lacey Evans. They've been teasing this match now for about 2 or 3 weeks. And Lacey Evans keeps weaseling her way out of it. They Michael Cole explained that she was not medically cleared. And there was no other mention of her. And she didn't come out and attack Aliyah, so I assume that there is a medical reason why she wasn't on the show. Unfortunately, this was not good. This was not good, but at least it was relatively short. Shotzi locked on a Boston Crab. Aliyah fought and made it to the ropes. Shotzi pulled her back into the middle. Aliyah dove broke free. And Aliyah ends up hitting a flying clothesline for 2. Shotzi rolled out of the ring, and Aliyah caught her with a Thez press off the apron. Stone Cold Aliyah here, coming off the apron. Shotzi regained control, sent Aliyah back inside, and hit her never wake up finish for the 3 count. Honestly, Shotzi hitting her finish here was the best part of the match. It looked good. It looked genuinely devastating. And Shotzi Blackheart picks up a rare win here on SmackDown. When was the last time Shotzi won a match? I have no idea. I can't remember the last singles win that she's had. So she actually wins the match here. Now, highlights aired after this of Raquel Rodriguez beating Sonya Deville, followed by Deville cutting a post-match promo in a segment which did not air on TV, but they showed highlights of it. Ronda Rousey ran out, put her down with Piper's Pit, put her in an armbar. So now we come back live. And in the back, Liv Morgan and Ronda Rousey, who are wrestling tomorrow night, are doing their poses. They're doing a little photo shoot in preparation for their championship match tomorrow night. All of a sudden, Natalya shows up. We can't get rid of they cannot get rid of this woman. This woman has lost to Ronda Rousey. This woman has lost to Liv Morgan countless times. Natalya just does not know when to take a hint. Here she is again. She thinks that she should be the one challenging for the championship. Why? I don't know. But that's how she feels. I'm sure everybody would love to challenge for the championship. So she interrupts the festivities here. Sonya Deville shows up. She starts talking shit. Ronda Rousey storms off. And at first, we had no idea where she disappeared to. She just decided to just leave. Stage left. So she walks off. They cut back to the ring, and Shotzi is in the ring still. She's got a mic in her hand, and she's cackling. She's laughing on the microphone. Before she could say anything, though, they played Ronda's music, and Ronda marched down to the ring. She had this look of purpose, we'll call it, on her face as she marched down to the ring. And she ends up trying to get the microphone from Shotzi, who wouldn't give it up right away, so she takes Shotzi down with a judo throw, and before she could do any damage with an arm bar, she looks down, and she says, "Bye, Shotzi," and she lets Shotzi leave with both of her limbs intact. So Shotzi is gone. And Ronda Rousey is in the middle of the ring, and Ronda Rousey has a microphone, which is always a dangerous thing. You never know what's going to come out. It's like eating a bad burrito or something, right? And then you end up running to the John. You don't know what's going to come out, but you know it's probably not going to be very good. So there was a fan. I couldn't hear what the fans said. I even went back to see if I could hear. I guess there was a fan in the front row that was heckling Ronda. I don't know what he or she said. But Ronda heard it, and Ronda looks over at the guy and tells him to shut up and says that your mother failed you. And then she tripped over her words as she was continuing her promo, and she was basically calling Liv Morgan out to the ring. She said that Liv Morgan should come out. She wants the two of them to show why they're the ones fighting for the championship tomorrow night and not all the others. And they went to a commercial break. So look, Ronda off the cuff. See, that's the Ronda Rousey. I could get behind that. If Ronda Rousey was to come out and just start healing on the fans every week, I wanted her to be a heel anyway when she first came back. That's the version of Ronda Rousey that I could get behind. So we come back from the break. We find out that during the break, Adam Pearce made it official. You know exactly what we ended up with here. We ended up with a tag team match. Ronda Rousey and Liv Morgan as tag team partners taking on Natty and Sonya. The heels had Morgan isolated on their side of the ring. Natty went for the sharpshooter. Morgan broke free, dropped her with a code breaker. A code breaker. And Michael Cole referred to it as that on commentary. So instead of making the tag, though, Liv went for the pin. And the heels regained control, backed Morgan into their corner. Morgan fought back, broke free, had an opportunity yet again. Second time here in this match. Liv Morgan had a chance to make the tag to Ronda Rousey. She's crawling and crawling. And for a moment, I thought they were going to do the old spot. We just saw AEW do this on Rampage a number of weeks ago with Jonathan Gresham. Before he got all pissy with Tony Khan and cussed him out. Lost to Claudio and then took his ball and went home. We had Jonathan Gresham in the ring on Rampage a few weeks ago. I forgot who he was tagging with. Might have been Lee Moriarty. I don't remember who, but jumping off the apron, abandoning his partner. The old Sid Hogan spot. So I thought Ronda was going to do that. I thought Liv's crawling over. Ronda is going to fake her out and then leave her to die on her own. That's not what happened. Liv could have made the tag. She stood up. She looked at Ronda and she opted not to and says, you know what? I don't need your help. I can beat these two all by myself. So she refused to make the tag. Instead, she went to go hit her Oblivion finish on Sonya, but she missed. Sonya moved out of the way. And the heels regained control. Morgan, again, though, ended up breaking free. This time, Ronda reached in and tagged herself into the match. Rousey put DeVille down with Piper's Pit. Natty hit Rousey from behind as Rousey was teasing the armbar. Morgan hit the Oblivion on Natty while Rousey forced DeVille to submit to the armbar. So I actually like the story here, even though it was the same old can they coexist bullshit that we always get, right? We always see this. Can they coexist? That's exactly what this was. And we've seen this formula from WWE all the time. But I like what they did here. You have Liv Morgan refusing to tag out to Rousey. She wants to prove that she can win the match on her own. Everybody's talking about her like, you got lucky. You beat Ronda Money in the Bank because she already had a match. She had a bad knee. You got lucky. Now you're going to go into SummerSlam. Even though you're the champion, you're the underdog because you don't stand a chance against Ronda Rousey. So here's a woman who, even though she's the champion, she is the underdog going into tomorrow night. She's out to prove something. She's out to prove something to Ronda. She's out to prove something to the fans that she doesn't need anybody's help. She can do this on her own. So I like that aspect of it. The problem is that this woman has a championship match, the biggest match of her life, the biggest challenge of her entire career, against Ronda Rousey in 24 hours. And instead of tagging out and preserving herself and making sure she doesn't get injured or wear herself out too much, she opts to not tag in her partner, who you would think she would want to tag Ronda in. Let Ronda take some abuse, just like she's taking some abuse. She opted to stay in instead of tagging out to her partner, which I think actually made her look like a friggin' fool. So that's the only drawback of this. You have this meaningless tag team match that nothing is on the line. This means absolutely nothing. And she insists on staying in the match while her partner is fresh. Her partner is her opponent tomorrow. So that made her look a little bit dumb. But otherwise, I actually didn't mind the story they were trying to tell here. So up next, we had the Street Profits and the Usos ahead of their tag team championship match tomorrow night at the SummerSlam, coming out for a special segment here with the special guest referee for their match tomorrow night, Double J, Jeff Jarrett, coming out to give them the pre-match instructions 24 hours before the match. Jarrett came out wearing his referee shirt. He cut his own entrance short by telling, he had a mic in his hand already, and he's telling both teams as he's walking down to the ring that he's got something to say to them. Jarrett gets in the ring. He says that he thought it would be a good idea for the four of us to get together and lay down some ground rules for tomorrow night. Let's get some things straight before SummerSlam. Jarrett said he wanted them to know how serious he takes his job as the special referee. Both teams took turns asking if it would be a disqualification if they did certain things to each other. Angelo Dawkins asked, he goes, Double J, is it a DQ if I hit Jimmy Uso so hard that he comes back with face paint on? Jarrett said that both teams have some very creative imaginations for what they were asking. And he said that he wasn't there to contain them. He was there to let them run wild, so basically they could get it out of their system before tomorrow night. He said his only job tomorrow is to count to 3 when 2 shoulders hit the mat. Jarrett said that that was tomorrow, though. As far as tonight is concerned, it's obvious they have some outstanding issues. He says, if one of you feel froggy, why don't you jump? And Angelo Dawkins started to ask another question. He wanted to know if it would be a disqualification if, and then before he could get out what he was trying to say, he and Montez Ford, they throw right hands at the Usos, and a big brawl breaks out with both teams. Jarrett just sat back on the top turnbuckle. He perched himself up top. He was going to watch. He had a bird's eye seat, and he was going to let these 4 guys beat the hell out of each other. The action spills into the corner where he's sitting on the top buckle, so Jarrett has to get out of the way. And he jumps down. Like, he jumps over them to get around them. And I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm just thinking, okay, that's the moment that Conrad nearly had a heart attack if he's watching this, because he sees the main event of his pay-per-view on Sunday slipping away if Jeff Jarrett comes off the middle rope and blows out his knee. Jarrett is 55 years old. He looks good for 55, but he's 55 years old. And anything in that moment could happen, right? Bad luck could strike, and all of a sudden, out goes Ric Flair's final match on Sunday. But then I realized, I think tonight they're doing the roast of Ric Flair. I believe tonight is the roast of Ric Flair as part of this whole Ric Flair weekend. So Conrad is probably at the roast. I don't know that he's sitting at home watching SmackDown. I mean, why would he? So in all the mayhem, Jey Uso accidentally kicks Jeff Jarrett, and Jarrett takes this great, exaggerated bump. Reminded me of the bump Shawn Michaels took in his match with Sid at Survivor Series back in '96, where he kind of fell backwards and flipped it. Oh, it was basically for like 2 seconds. He was kind of standing on his head. Jarrett, he just took this great bump for the super kick. And Jimmy Uso was not very happy about his brother's faux pas here. His brother just kicked the referee for their title match right in the mouth. So they tried to help Jarrett up to his feet. Jarrett shoved them both away. He didn't want their help. He didn't look very happy about what had happened. Dawkins ran over. He shoved the Usos out of the ring. Montez Ford hit the ropes, hit a big cannonball dive out onto both Usos, got back in the ring, and both Street Profits celebrated with the championships. They wanted to plant the idea that the Usos are in grave danger now, that they assaulted the referee, and that Jarrett now is going to take it out on them tomorrow night. That's what they want you to think. So in a way, it kind of makes me think that, well, they want me to think that, when in reality, we all know Jeff Jarrett is a heel. I know it's Nashville. I know when he comes in, he'll probably get a big pop. But Jeff Jarrett is a heel. He's a heel at heart. He's a heel on Sunday. 24 hours after this pay-per-view. He's going to be a heel in the main event. Maybe this is their way to swerve everybody into thinking that Jarrett is going to cost the Usos, and in reality, he ends up being in the back pocket of the bloodline, and he helps the Usos retain their titles. Anything's possible. I said with Triple H now and where he wants to go with his champions and who he wants to push, all the balls are up in the air right now. We don't know where they're going to land. Whatever plans Vince McMahon may have had for the SummerSlam card and who goes over and any surprises and what happens, I'm sure a lot of it will still play out the way that it was going to, but I absolutely think that Triple H is going to want to shake things up a little bit. Does that mean that he's going to shake things up in this match? Maybe. So maybe they will do some kind of a swerve. I don't see that being the case, but it is smart to kind of make the fans wonder now what might happen. So I thought this was a good segment. Then we had a segment that I would not consider good, because I don't consider this stupid angle to be good, but we had Maxine Dupree. This was a pre-tape in the back. This is Max Dupree's sister, who was introduced to us for the first time on the show last week. There was no Max Dupree last week. He was MIA. We had heard that Vince McMahon was not very happy with his performance in one of the earlier segments, and that's why he wasn't there. And I don't believe it's a case where, oh, the story was made up and the story was false. If you remember last week, when they promoted this segment, they promoted it as Maxine Dupree presents the Maximum Male Models 2022 Beachwear collection next week. There was no mention of Max. He wasn't in the graphic. His name wasn't mentioned. So I absolutely believe that he did something or said something to piss off Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon says, I'm done with this guy. Or we're going to put this guy on the side. We're going to put this guy on pause for a while. Well, now Triple H is in power. And guess who Triple H signed to WWE in the first place? LA Knight. Triple H is the one who brought him into the company. He is the one who brought LA Knight into NXT because he saw something in him. He got behind him. He pushed him on that brand. Triple H is a fan of LA Knight. We know this already. So whatever he may have done to upset Vince McMahon or make Vince McMahon think that he's not going to be able to carry this the way that I want him to. Well, now Triple H is in the driver's seat. And so we have this segment here, and they're showing all these shots of Massey and Mansois, posing in their summer beachwear. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the segment, we see Max Dupree. He's back. And he shows up on camera, and he says that they are still seeking clients, still taking applications from potential clients who embody the essence and the creed of maximum male models. So that's what I think happened here. Because there was no reason for him not to be on the show last week, and there was no reason for them to promote this segment as Maxine Dupree presenting this, but not mention him at all, unless the idea was that he was taken out of this group. Well, what happened over the course of the week that would have changed that? Gee, I wonder. Only the head of creative resigned from the company, and now we have somebody new. The same person who hired the guy. So yes, Triple H brought him back. Now, my quibble about this is that he brought him back into a shit gimmick. My hope was that Triple H would bring this guy back and let him come back as LA Knight and make some real money with this guy. Instead, they put him right back in this fucking group. So that I don't like. But at least he's being given another chance. It is ridiculous to think that Vince McMahon didn't like the way he delivered his material, or whatever it was a few weeks ago. Supposedly it was in one of the earlier segments. He didn't deliver his lines or whatever in the way that Vince McMahon liked. And then, of course, the reports that he was rubbing people the wrong way because apparently he questioned some of the scripting. So, off with his head. Thank God people came to their senses, and at least he's back on TV. I wish it wasn't in this shitty gimmick, but at least he is back on TV. He will do his best to try to make this work. We have the New Day taking on the new vicious Viking Raiders. Early in the match, Ivar was on the apron. He pulled Kofi to ringside and splashed him against the barricade. Kingston was isolated until he hit Ivar with an SOS. Both men tagged out. Woods got the better of both Raiders, hit a tornado DDT on Eric for a near fall. Kingston tagged in, hit a top rope splash on Eric. Ivar, though, broke up the pin. So Eric comes back, and Eric blasts Kofi with a knee to the face, and the Raiders hit a double powerbomb on Kingston. That led to the Viking victory. That's what I wrote in my notes. I just wrote Viking victory. So they pick up the win. After the match, Woods charged at Eric. This is after both Raiders had left the ring, went over by the timekeeper's area, and they retrieved their giant shields that they bring out with them to the ring. So they're back in the ring now. They have their shields. Woods charges at them, and he gets bashed in the head with one of the shields. And so down he goes. They wrapped a chair around his ankle, and both Vikings smashed their shields onto the chair. And Woods sold this great. He sold this like his ankle was shattered, and the announcers talked it up. I think it might have been the same leg where he previously had an Achilles injury, so they really played that up. I mean, Woods, he immediately ripped his boot off. He was clutching his ankle. People came into the ring to help him. He said, no, don't touch it. he was really, on point here with the selling of this. Kofi came in to check on his partner. So they're still committed so far. They haven't given up yet. They're still committed to trying to get the Viking Raiders over as a couple of badasses. We'll see how long that lasts. Maybe now they'll stand a better chance than they would have under the previous administration, who no doubt would have given up on them in a few weeks. But I guess Xavier Woods is taking a vacation. Maybe he's got more G4 duties. I don't know. But the way this angle played out, we're not going to be seeing Xavier Woods back on TV for a while. We close things out with Paul Heyman, special counsel to the tribal chief, in the ring by himself. Paul Heyman, main eventing SmackDown. He said that for 35 years, no man has gotten to 700 days as the heavyweight champion, which is what Roman Reigns will do when he finishes off Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, once and for all. Lesnar's music hit. Out comes Cowboy Brock, who was not advertised for the show tonight, so that was a surprise to see him here on this show. He walks into the... Well, first he stalks Heyman, right? Like a shark. We just had Shark Week last week. He circles the ring. He gets into the ring. Heyman now, he's backing Heyman into a corner. Heyman is cowering. And before Lesnar, who was very tanned, by the way, for a guy from Saskatchewan, he was rocking quite the tan here on the show. Brock is about to grab Heyman, but before he can do anything to Paul Heyman, Austin Theory hits him from behind with a briefcase. So now we know what Heyman was chatting Austin Theory up about earlier in the show before they had cut away. So he hits Brock in the back with the briefcase, which is a very stupid thing to do. And Brock, of course, comes back. He gets in some briefcase shots of his own. He drops Theory with a German suplex, hits him with another German suplex. Theory rolls out of the ring and grabs his briefcase. And as he turns around, who is there to meet him with a Claymore kick? It's Drew McIntyre. Revenge for what he did to McIntyre earlier in the show. And then we're left with an interesting sight, which is Drew McIntyre outside the ring, looking in and staring at Brock Lesnar. We have a stare down between McIntyre and Lesnar, teasing the idea that after tomorrow, if Brock wins the championship, he's the one who goes to Cardiff to defend against Drew, which would be a WrestleMania rematch from a couple of years ago. And so that is how we went off the air with SmackDown tonight. A little tease. And that was one of the things I will actually give them, some kudos for here on this show. Whether it was the super kick to Jeff Jarrett in the tag team situation, whether it was Liv Morgan trying to prove whatever it was that she was trying to prove in her tag match with Ronda, the end of the show here, they were teasing a lot of different potential things that could go down at SummerSlam tomorrow. They were keeping you thinking, they were keeping you guessing about what's going to happen on the show, which is what they should be doing. They should want people to be thinking, wait a minute, I don't know what direction they're going to go in with this. I don't know what direction they may go in here. Look at the main event, right? Last man standing. Who's it going to be? Is Theory going to cash in? I don't know. Is Drew McIntyre going to get involved? Maybe. I don't know. So I thought it was smart of them to do that. I didn't hate SmackDown. I actually really enjoyed the opening match. I liked a couple of the stories they were trying to tell. After the McIntyre and Sheamus match, though, it really was more of the same, where you could pretty much take the rest of the show and throw it away, and it wouldn't really make much of a difference. So the only really important thing happened in the first 25 minutes of the show. The rest of it felt very much like a Vince McMahon typical episode of SmackDown. So that was your SmackDown Go Home show to SummerSlam, with a 45% thumbs up score from you guys on Twitter, 35% thumbs in the middle, and about 20% thumbs down for SmackDown tonight. That is the breakdown. You can always vote at Solomonster. That is on Twitter. Yes, Brandon Thomas says Kevin Nash will he's going to stick the winner tomorrow night. He's going to text himself, and then he's going to stick him. I think Kevin is actually quite content to stay home and not go anywhere and just do his podcast. You should check out his new podcast, Click This, with Sean Oliver. I always loved the kayfabe commentary stuff that Sean Oliver would do with Nash. Every Kevin Nash interview that he has ever done with Sean Oliver, I've watched, I think, every single one of them. Nash is, whether you buy into all of his stories or not, and Nash, more than most workers, comes across to me as more honest than a lot of them. You know, yes, it is from his perspective, and he is very defensive of all of his friends in the clique and everything. But I've always enjoyed the Nash shoot interviews. And I always enjoyed the interplay between the two of them. So now they're doing a podcast. They just started their podcast, and I watched the first episode, which was covering the death of Scott Hall, which was, you know, a pretty powerful episode. They talk about Scott. The whole thing is devoted to Scott and his career. You know, but Nash talked about his final days and those final hours when they said goodbye to him. And so, anyway, the fact that the two of them are now doing a podcast together is pretty cool. I think he's more than happy to stay home and do that. He doesn't need to be showing up anywhere. But yes, I had almost forgotten about the time that they did that whole story with Nash and Triple H. Hey, shout out to Corey for the sub. We are marching on our way to 70,000 subs in these next few months here on the channel. And I just want to know who's going to be number 70,000. I don't know. It might be somebody who's not even joining us right now. I guess it would be if they were a new subscriber. But I can't get to 70K without your help. So if you are tuned in but not subbed, make sure you hit that sub button. Let's switch on over right now. Like magic, we are switching over here to the Smackdown post-show, which in this case is our SummerSlam predictions. We are doing SummerSlam predictions for tomorrow night. SummerSlam is at Nissan Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee. Weather is looking good so far. A few days ago, it wasn't looking so good. A few days ago, it was looking like thunderstorms. Right now, though, it looks like maybe a 15% chance of rain. PW Insider says that they're ready for any possibilities. If the rain does come, they're going to have an indoor area all set up where they can do interviews, just like they did for WrestleMania when we had that rain delay last year. So they will be prepared, but the weather has taken a turn for the better, because there is no roof. It is open air in Nashville tomorrow night. There's been a lot of ticket movement in the last several days. They've got about 35,000 tickets out with a capacity of 37. So if it's not a sellout, it'll be a near sellout. Now, I should quantify that. Sellout does not mean that they will have every seat filled. They will have every seat filled that they made available. So it is a 70,000 seat stadium. They're only opening it up to about 37,000. So, but that's still a very healthy crowd. Hey, shout out to Antonio, who just became a Sound Off superstar. What's going on, Antonio? Our newest channel member. Antonio is now at the top of the list. Welcome aboard. So 35,000 is a pretty healthy crowd, and they'll have a lot of people in the building tomorrow night for the first SummerSlam ever without Vince McMahon. This is going to be the very first SummerSlam show not run by Vince McMahon. Now, it was booked by Vince McMahon. Largely, the entire card was put together by Vince McMahon before he resigned. But he will not be there. He will not have any involvement in the show. It will be the first SummerSlam of the Triple H regime tomorrow night. I am expecting a few surprises on this show. I think Triple H is going to want to make a splash and at least throw one thing at the audience that they don't see coming. Try to get people talking. One match has already been pulled from the card, and I don't know if this was the plan all along or if this is a Triple H plan. This could be the first mark of the Triple H regime here. They have pulled the match between Seth Rollins and Matt Riddle. The match is officially off after the injury, quote unquote, that Riddle sustained at the end of Raw Monday night when Rollins gave him a curb stomp on the ring steps. The injury was said to have been a very bad stinger, and Riddle is going to be out for an undetermined period of time. It is not a legitimate injury. It is not a legitimate injury. Riddle is fine. They have made the decision to postpone the match probably until Clash at the Castle. So the match will likely take place in Cardiff instead, for reasons that are not yet clear. Maybe it'll become more clear tomorrow night, but why the match was pulled, why Riddle, who is one of the most over baby faces in the entire company, and who has been pretty prominently featured now for the past few months. They already don't have Randy Orton. Now they've voluntarily pulled Riddle from the show, which is a little suspect. But that now makes 2 straight pay-per-view matches for Riddle that were changed. Originally, it was going to be Riddle and Roman Reigns, most likely, for the championship at Money in the Bank, until they moved the pay-per-view out of Allegiant Stadium into the smaller building. All of a sudden, Roman Reigns was no longer advertised for Money in the Bank. Riddle ended up in the ladder match instead. And so now Riddle is heading into SummerSlam against Seth Rollins and now has his match pulled from the card. So that leaves Seth Rollins without an opponent and very likely to get a new opponent at the last minute. Probably a last-minute mystery opponent, just like he did with Cody at WrestleMania. As if this show didn't already feel like WrestleMania rematches, right? We have Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. We have Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch, right? 2 of the biggest title matches on the show are WrestleMania rematches. The Becky and Bianca match is not just a WrestleMania rematch, it's a rematch from last year's SummerSlam. So we have that, and now we have, just like WrestleMania, Seth against probably a mystery opponent, which, again, has not yet been made official. We do not know if Seth is going to be wrestling or not. I think many of us assume that he will be. So Rollins took to Twitter to tell the fans, "For anyone who purchased a ticket to SummerSlam hoping to see me in action, I apologize. I did everything I could over the last 6 months to earn my spot on the show, but some things are out of my control. Thank you for always singing my song. They will hear you someday." Triple H heard what Seth Rollins had to say, and Triple H on Twitter responded and said something to the effect, I think it was actually, he said, "I hear you," I think is exactly what he said. I hear you. Now, this is very strange to me because obviously this is an angle. They're setting up for some kind of an angle on the show tomorrow night, right? We know that. We know that they're setting up some kind of big mystery, something or other for tomorrow night. But what's weird to me about this is that if this is all storylined, if this is all kayfabe, Seth Rollins is a heel. The only reason Seth Rollins is off the show is because in storyline, he injured his opponent before the pay-per-view. 5 days before SummerSlam, he couldn't wait for the show. He curb stomped this man on the ring steps. So then he goes on Twitter when the match is pulled because of a storyline injury caused by him, and he completely babyfaces everybody by apologizing to the fans. "I've worked so hard to be on this show. Eventually they'll hear me, they'll hear you, they have to hear us." Just a complete 180 from the Seth Rollins that we just saw at Madison Square Garden on Monday night, cackling and booting and stomping Matt Riddle into oblivion. So this whole thing is very strange. The way they're handling this here is very strange. I'm not quite sure if we're supposed to feel sorry for Seth, because I certainly don't after what I just saw him do. He should be suspended for what he did. He injured this man. He ruined the SummerSlam card. Triple H says, "I hear you." Why would Triple H reward this man? Why would he reward him by putting him in another match or putting him in a championship match? Some people think that he's going to be inserted into the main event with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. Why would he be inserted into the main event when he injured his opponent? He gave him a stinger. He put him on the shelf. He is not medically cleared to compete. Why would Triple H reward him? Why would he reward bad behavior? Doesn't make any sense. Let's run through some of the possibilities here. What is this going to be? Let's assume that he is going to wrestle someone tomorrow night. Who is he going to wrestle? What are they going to do here? Well, one person, you saw him on the screen a little bit earlier on. We haven't really heard anything in recent weeks about Randy Orton. Randy Orton has been MIA. The last we heard about Randy Orton, it was a legitimate back injury that he was dealing with. And that injury came even before they lost the tag team titles to the Usos. And he had to, get his back to a point where he could at least do the match. And then we haven't heard from him since. But the report on him was that he was possibly going to have back surgery. And if he had back surgery, then he would be out of SummerSlam, where originally the rumors were that it was going to be him and Roman Reigns for the championship, which would make total sense because we already had the match with Riddle and Roman. It seemed to be setting up for Roman and Randy. But, his back is hurt. He might need back surgery. If he has the back surgery, he'll be out for the rest of the year. Since those reports, we have heard nothing. We have not heard from Randy Orton. We have not heard from WWE about his condition and exactly what his status is, outside of them on television claiming that he's hurt. Has he had the back surgery? I would think that if Randy Orton had back surgery, that either he would have said something or WWE would have announced that Randy Orton just underwent back surgery. We wish him all the best. There's been nothing. It's been total radio silence on Randy Orton. Nobody seems to know what's going on with him. And I think that that is a little suspect. And it does make me think that there's at least a small chance that we might see him show up as a mystery opponent for Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. For what Seth did to Riddle on Monday, Randy Orton, who nobody would be expecting, right? They play his music, everybody pops huge because everybody loves Randy Orton, and we get Randy Orton against Seth Rollins tomorrow night. I think that the likelihood is probably low, but I just throw that out there as a possibility because we have not heard anything about him, and I find that very suspect. Makes me think that he didn't have back surgery. Maybe he had a back injury, but maybe he didn't need surgery after all. Maybe he's doing better. Maybe he's ready to be cleared, and maybe he's ready to come back. So that's one possibility. Another person who does not have a match on the show tomorrow night, bizarrely, is AJ Styles. AJ Styles has no match. They could have thrown him and Tommaso Ciampa on there, but they didn't even do that. So AJ Styles has no match for SummerSlam. Now, I know that we had Rollins and AJ. They had a television match. I want to say was it before WrestleMania? It might have been before WrestleMania. I don't remember exactly when it was, but they wrestled on TV only a few months ago. They had a very good match. And I'm sure that if AJ stepped into the ring with Rollins tomorrow night, they'd have a great match, right? You put them on first, let them open the show at SummerSlam. I'm sure they'll tear it up. Again, I think it's very unlikely. Feels to me like they're setting up for something a little bit bigger. Even if the name that it ends up being is not necessarily as big of a name or as big of a star as AJ, I just feel like they're setting up for something different for Seth. But it'd be a hell of a match if they wanted to book it. Another possibility, this is probably the likeliest, is that somebody is returning to the company as a mystery opponent for Seth Rollins, much the way that Cody Rhodes did. I would laugh if it was Cody. Can you imagine Cody convincing them to clear him so that we can have Cody come out yet again as the mystery opponent and he could beat Seth again for the fucking fourth time? But I think that the likelihood of it being somebody making a big return is probably the most likely scenario here. And of course, everybody has been throwing out a whole bunch of names. The two names that I have seen the most are Bray Wyatt and Johnny Gargano. Because Johnny Gargano is still a free agent. Johnny Gargano may have made the right decision, I think, holding out this long, given the change of leadership here in WWE. Gargano actually made a surprise appearance on Impact last night. Not in person, it was in a video. It was in a video for Alex Shelley, who is going to be challenging Josh Alexander for the Impact World title next month. So that was a bit of a surprise to see Johnny Gargano pop up on Impact. But what do I think of either of those two being the opponent? I still have nightmares of Hell in a Cell in 2019. I haven't gotten over that. And so I personally have no interest in seeing Bray Wyatt or The Fiend or any incarnation of Bray Wyatt stepping into the ring with Seth Rollins. So that would be a no for me, dog. Okay? So then we have Johnny Gargano. I like Johnny. I think Johnny is a tremendous wrestler. I enjoyed his work in NXT. And I think that if Johnny Gargano were to come out and be the mystery opponent, I think he and Seth Rollins would tear that fucking place up. And even the people who may not be that familiar with Johnny Gargano because they didn't watch NXT, Johnny Gargano has a knack, I think, for being able to bring people into his matches. He is a great babyface in peril. So even the people who don't know who he is, I think he would be able to draw them in. Those two could go out there and have a SummerSlam match that people would remember. And he doesn't even have to win. Seth has lost a lot, right? He lost all the matches to Cody. He just lost his match at SummerSlam. He doesn't even have a match right now. Rollins really could use this win. If he beats Johnny, it's really no... If they go out there and have a great match and Gargano loses, it's not like it kills Gargano. What I like about maybe the person being Gargano is... It doesn't even have to be him in this match. I like the idea of him coming back now. And I actually think him coming back to WWE is the way to go. Because the issue I had before is that if Johnny Gargano, under the leadership of Vince McMahon, were to have been called up from NXT, he never would have stood a chance. He had no shot. He had no shot. If his aspirations were to go to the main roster and achieve great success, and maybe even one day be a champion, right? Be around that level somewhere. He had no chance. And it's not because he doesn't have the ability. It's not because he's not talented enough. It's because of his size. It's because of his size. It's because I could frankly see Vince McMahon listening to his promos and not getting it. He was very entertaining as a heel when he was doing The Way with him and Candice and Indy Hartwell and Theory. But I just feel like he's somebody Vince McMahon would look at, and it would be death for Johnny Gargano. And now that Triple H is running the show, who knows Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa better than Triple H? These were his guys. Those were the faces of the black and gold brand. Triple H built around these guys. They worked with everybody. They were prominent stars on that show. They helped carry NXT for so many years. Johnny Gargano was Mr. NXT. Well, the guy who created that version of NXT is now running the entire show. So Johnny Gargano now has a much better chance at success than he would have 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I would have said stay far away, like it's radioactive. But it's amazing how the whole landscape could change in such a short period of time. Johnny Gargano, I think the place for him to land now is back in WWE. I mean, if he goes to AEW, well, he's going to get lost in the shuffle. And where else is he going to go? So I think WWE is actually the best landing spot for him now. Wouldn't mind it at all if Johnny Gargano, Rebel Heart hits, and here he comes. The only problem is I don't think he can even use Rebel Heart anymore. So when all this talk about Gargano, I popped into Spotify before. And I don't remember who it was. I was looking for some song. I don't know. Maybe it was Alice. Was it Aleister Black or Adam Cole? I don't know who it was. But I noticed that some of the music, and maybe it's a CFO's thing, I don't know. But some of the music for some of the guys that have left WWE are gone now from Spotify and Apple Music. I think Rebel Heart might be one of those songs. I was actually looking for it and I couldn't find it. So unless I just completely was out to lunch, I don't even know if Rebel Heart is on there anymore. I don't even know if he can use it if he comes back. There's another possibility. Talking here about NXT, and it's an idea that I pitched on Twitter the other day. I also like the idea that they could potentially call up somebody new who has never been on the main roster before. And they can use this moment here. If Seth wants a match and Triple H says, you know what, Seth, you're absolutely right. You deserve a match on this card. Here's your opponent. And out comes one of the young guns from NXT. one of the young studs from NXT who they're going to push now on the main roster. They get their first match at SummerSlam in the ring with Seth Rollins. Even if they lose, it's not a bad spot for them to be in, having a big SummerSlam match. The person that I would go with in this scenario is Solo Sikoa. Now, you have yourself a Braun Breaker who's going to make it to the main roster soon enough. Carmelo Hayes, who's going to make it to the main roster soon enough. And Solo Sikoa will as well. He's the third Uso, literally the third Uso, right? We know his background. It's only a matter of time before he's in the bloodline. But I pointed out that on Raw Monday night, when Rollins came out at the end of the show, as Roman Reigns and the bloodline were leaving, Rollins was coming in, and he looked at Roman Reigns and he laughed in his face. And then he walked to the ring and beat up he beat up Matt Riddle. But he laughed in Roman's face, right? He's got unfinished business with Roman Reigns. So you can kind of link it back to that if you want an explanation for why Solo Sikoa. Have Solo Sikoa show up, and it's almost as if, like, maybe not officially, but kind of like on behalf of the bloodline here, this guy's going to go in there and he's going to try to make a name for himself by taking down Seth Rollins. It could be a great way to introduce him to the main roster. Because I do believe that he, sooner than later, is going to be on Raw or SmackDown. Probably SmackDown. Probably wherever the bloodline is, that's where he'll be. Why not use that spot to debut somebody new? I don't like the idea of it being a Braun Breaker. I don't like the idea of it being a Carmelo Hayes because they're champions in NXT. And I know we've seen the NXT champion get called up before and the NXT women's champion get called up before they lose the titles. I don't like that. If you are a champion in NXT and they want you on the main roster, then finish up in NXT and go to the main roster. Especially if whoever gets in there with Seth is going to lose. You definitely don't want that to be a champion from your NXT brand. Carmelo Hayes is the North American champion. Braun Breaker is the NXT champion. So long as they have those titles, it should not be them. Solo Sikoa doesn't have that problem. Solo Sikoa has no title. You can make a star in one night. Seth Rollins is the person. I can't think of a better person on the main roster, other than maybe an AJ Styles, to put someone new in the ring with, to give them the best possible match and make them look as good as they can possibly look. Because, they're new, they're young, they might have some butterflies, they might have some nerves, they might need somebody in there with them who can help guide them, who can be that ring general, who could coach them along. Seth Rollins would be the perfect person for that. I like that idea. Might not be as sexy as having somebody big return and get that big pop, but I like the idea of trying to make somebody new in one night. That's something that I think Triple H is going to want to do going forward. I think they're going to need to introduce some new faces. They're going to need to introduce some new names and get some new fucking blood on that main roster. Well, here's an opportunity for you to do that. And then there's the other possibility that I mentioned before, which I kind of laugh at, that Seth Rollins would be added to the main event and make it a triple threat. I'm not even sure how that would work. You would need two referees, but a triple threat last man standing match with Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins, who again did laugh in Roman's face at the end of Raw on Monday night. And a triple threat with Rollins and Reigns and Lesnar sounds incredible, right? I think that would be a fantastic match, but it would make no sense. It would make no sense unless Triple H is going to be back on television or something as a heel. God forbid they bring back the Authority. Let's not do that. But if you had a heel Triple H say, oh, I like the initiative that you took, I'm going to reward you with a championship match. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Triple H is not coming back anytime soon as an on-air character. He's juggling enough responsibilities right now. Less than a year ago, he almost died. Okay, so Triple H is not going to be back on TV in that role anytime soon. So I think the possibility of him being added to the main event is the slimmest of all the possibilities, just because it don't make sense. And I have hope now. We are heading into an era where things make more sense than they did before. Takes 2 seconds to look at this and go, wait a minute, why would he be rewarded for this? That doesn't make sense. So even though he has no opponent, Seth Rollins, much like WrestleMania this year, finds himself in a situation where he probably is in the one, again, it's not a match. Nothing has been announced officially, but he's in that one segment on the show that probably more than any other I find myself most interested in. I want to know what they're going to do with him. I want to know who he might step into the ring with. Just like a WrestleMania, right? We all kind of had a sense. We all knew who it was probably going to be, but, here we go again. Rollins against who? Rollins against the Mystery Man. And I am more intrigued by that than I am anything else on the entire show. So then we have the rest of the card here of matches that are official that we do know. Bobby Lashley defends the United States Championship against Mr. Money in the Bank, Austin Theory, who has quite the losing streak going. He is 0 for 6 since winning the briefcase earlier this month at Money in the Bank. He has lost basically every single match that he has been in. And in almost every situation, we saw it at the end of SmackDown tonight. He tried to attack Brock Lesnar. It backfired on him. He got suplexed. He got taken to Suplex City. And then when he went to go leave, he got kicked in the face by Drew McIntyre. This guy has been made to look like a fucking loser since winning Money in the Bank. It is WWE's modus operandi when it comes to the briefcase. Well, we can beat him. We can make him look like a clown because when they cash in, they'll probably win the championship, so none of this is going to matter. I think that's an incredibly dumb, short-sighted way to go about it. That's how they do it. 0 for 6 since winning the briefcase. And after tomorrow night, he'll be 0 for 7. The only question is, does it come after another distraction from Dolph Ziggler? Or is it a case where they save that for another time, maybe even for the end of the show? Maybe Dolph will cost him in a cash-in attempt. The only question is not how does, or rather does Theory lose, but how does he lose? Because Bobby Lashley is going to retain the United States Championship. You can't take the U.S. title off Lashley this soon. So Lashley is going to retain. I think it'll be a situation where he gets him in the Hurt Lock, and just like we saw on Monday in that tag team match, Theory will tap out instantly because he recognizes that he doesn't want to get hurt, and he wants to preserve himself for the potential cash-in at the end of the night. So maybe he gets caught in the Hurt Lock, he taps quickly, and Lashley retains the championship. We have The Miz taking on Logan Paul. Hey, you know what? Let's hold on a second, because Darth Panic just said something in the chat that I want to address. I had not thought about that. That's a very good point. When we're talking about potential mystery opponents for Seth Rollins, I did leave one name off that list. And by the way, everybody in the live chat, hit that like button if you have not already done so. All the new people that have filed on in here, be sure to hit that like button. Gable Steveson. I had not thought about Gable Steveson because the latest on Gable Steveson is that he might be going back to school. He might be doing amateur wrestling, even though he already retired. He might be going back. So now it's a question whether or not he'll even be in WWE, even though he was drafted to Monday Night Raw in the draft last year. The story was that he was the final pick for Monday Night Raw, and that I think in May or June, the belief was that he was going to join the main roster and that he would already be on Monday Night Raw. We have not heard a single peep about Gable Steveson. But as far as I know, he is still signed. He was at WrestleMania. We saw him there, right? They put him over. He had a little appearance on that show. Could Gable Steveson be the mystery opponent for Seth Rollins? How would you feel about him being the opponent? I can't say that really does much to excite me, but again, if they were going to debut somebody new and try to get a new star over, that would be the way to do it. But I completely forgot about his name. All the ideas that I mentioned before, as far as whether it's Gargano or whether you bring up a Solo Sikoa or someone like that, I would much prefer those ideas. I actually am not a fan of the Gable Steveson idea at all, but I think we have to add that to the list. Shout out to Darth Panic. I had completely forgotten about him. But that would be a, I think that would be a terrible idea. So we go, speaking of terrible ideas, we go to The Miz and Logan Paul. This all stems from WrestleMania. They were tag team partners. Logan Paul got dropped with the skull-crushing finale. He wanted to go out as the babyface, and that's why they did that. Now he has signed a deal with WWE. He's going to be on multiple pay-per-views between now and next year. This is only the beginning of the Logan Paul push, but they're pushing Logan Paul in this feud as the babyface. Just by default, Miz is the heel, and so Logan Paul is the one that they expect people to cheer for, which, if you think about it, is completely ridiculous. And you even saw it on Raw Monday night at Madison Square Garden. That crowd did not seem all that interested in cheering for anything that Logan Paul was doing. That segment, by the way, that impulsive TV segment was fucking garbage. Okay, that was probably the worst thing on the entire show. The best part about that whole segment was Maurice, and she's not even in a match tomorrow night. I'd rather just see Maurice standing in the middle of the ring for 15 minutes, doing nothing, standing there with her purse. She does that thing with her hand. She goes like that, right? That's the Maurice thing. I'd rather see Maurice. She'd be like Hulk Hogan when he would do this. I'd rather see Maurice standing in the ring for 15 minutes. That would hold my attention. I would much rather see that. So we have Miz going one-on-one with Logan Paul. This is all designed to give Logan Paul a win. Logan Paul is not going to go in there and lose, right? He got dropped with a skull-crushing finale at the end of that match at WrestleMania. I cannot see him going into SummerSlam and losing in his first singles match to The Miz. So Logan Paul is my pick to win this match. He was impressive in the ring. I'm not saying he sucked at WrestleMania. Logan Paul was impressive at WrestleMania, just like Pat McAfee was impressive. Johnny Knoxville didn't embarrass himself even in the match with Sami Zayn. All the celebrities, they held their own at WrestleMania this year. Logan Paul has a knack for this. He seems to get it, but his knack is as a heel. He is easily hateable. You look at the guy and you just want to boo him. So if this is his idea that he wants to be a babyface, then they have to sit him down and convince him that, look, this is not the way to go. You can make some real money by doing this. Being a heel, getting people to hate you, playing into it. That's the role that he should be playing. Now Triple H is in charge. Maybe he'll be able to sit down with him. Maybe they'll map out and chart a new course for Logan Paul going forward. But for tonight, or tomorrow night, I guess we're less than half an hour away from Saturday. But for tomorrow night, he's going to be the babyface. Good luck is all I can say in Nashville. The reaction from the crowd in Nashville is going to be most interesting. How they take to Logan Paul. Athletically, I think he'll do fine. I think he might even do very well in the match. But that promo segment on Monday night did absolutely nothing to get me interested in this match. And if anything, it got me less interested to see what is going to happen tomorrow night. That's how bad that segment was on Monday. It was awful. It was centered mostly around talking about Miz's balls. I have no interest in seeing those either. We have Rey and Dominic Mysterio taking on Finn Balor and Damian Priest, representing the Judgment Day. This was Rey Mysterio's 20th anniversary in WWE that they celebrated in Madison Square Garden on Raw this past Monday night. And Rey gave a very nice speech, uninterrupted, until the very end when the Judgment Day came out. He and Dominic had a tag team match against Balor and Priest, and they even picked up a win. Right? It was a good night for the Mysterios until they got to the back, and then they got ambushed by the Judgment Day. And Rey got put through a table, and they beat up Dominic, so the Judgment Day got the last laugh. The key here to this match is that they have added a no disqualification stipulation to this match. And I think adding that stipulation sets the stage for the return of the rated R superstar. I think not only is Edge coming back, I think he's going to be coming back as the rated R superstar. He might not have the long hair, but I think the old Edge is coming back. And so does he come back during the match and help the Mysterios win? Do they give the Judgment Day the win first because they could really use the win? And then have Edge come out after? I think it happens during because of the no DQ stipulation. Rhea Ripley will be able to get involved because it's no DQ. But so can Edge. And I think we'll see, the lights will go out or whatever. We'll hear some music. He'll come out. He'll get the big pop. Oh my God, Edge is back. All these vignettes, these creepy vignettes for weeks building up to his return. And that distraction will be enough, or maybe he'll just get in the ring and interfere, but Edge will provide the assist to the Mysterios. Rey and Dominic pick up the win. They beat the Judgment Day. And Edge is back. Judgment Day has not had very good luck since Edge was kicked out of the group. They are a mid-card faction in just every sense of the word, every sense of the term. And it hurt them when Rhea Ripley went away because she got hurt, which was out of their control. Thankfully, she's back now. She's cleared. She's doing well. But losing Edge and then losing Rhea, it killed them dead, basically. Now they're going to try to get back some of that steam. They should win. I don't think they are going to win. But with Edge being back, now we can kind of further things, and we can get Edge against Priest. We can get Edge against Balor. Actually, Edge against Balor, I would think, is probably the match in Cardiff. That probably is the match that they're going to do on the Clash at the Castle show. We have Bianca Belair defending the Raw Women's Championship against Becky Lynch. It was 1 year ago at SummerSlam. 26 seconds. It was supposed to be Sasha Banks in a WrestleMania rematch against Bianca Belair. That was a WrestleMania rematch I was looking forward to because I loved their match at WrestleMania last year. I was looking forward to seeing it at SummerSlam. We still have no idea why Sasha Banks missed SummerSlam last year. It was never explained why she missed the show. But she wasn't there. They didn't tell anybody, right? The old bait and switch. They were advertising Sasha Banks even on the pre-show that night, knowing full well that she wouldn't be there. But they thought, well, we'll throw Becky out there, and that'll be a big enough surprise to sort of balance out the fact that Sasha's not there. Becky comes out, right? Big babyface reaction. And she goes and she pins Bianca in 26 seconds. And you could see all the fans on social media, they burned everything to the ground after that decision. And from there, Becky fighting against the tide. They were bound and determined to get her over as a heel. So here we are now. They had a great WrestleMania match. Do they need to be doing this again? Probably not. And had Rhea Ripley not been hurt, I don't think they do this match at SummerSlam. I think it was, well, we know it was supposed to be Rhea and Bianca at Money in the Bank. I think that we would have had a Rhea and Bianca rematch at SummerSlam. Rhea got hurt. They had to readjust. So we end up with Becky Lynch again. Becky Lynch and Bianca. As great as their match was at WrestleMania, I'm sure they could go out there and have another great match. This will not go 26 seconds like it did last year. But this should be a Bianca Belair win. Bianca Belair needs to put this shit to bed with Becky Lynch and move on. And hopefully they can now resume the program they originally intended to do last month between Bianca and Rhea. Bianca and Rhea should be the Raw Women's Championship match in Cardiff in September. To get there, Bianca first has to beat Becky, and I think that's exactly what she does. We then have Pat McAfee. SmackDown's own Pat McAfee stepping into the ring with Happy Corbin. Corbin is coming off a loss in his program with Madcap Moss. McAfee is not even a full-time performer. He's a fucking announcer, right? He can work, but he's not a wrestler. He's the announcer on the show. So you take those two things into consideration. And he's also coming off a win over Austin Theory at WrestleMania. We'll forget the loss to the 76-year-old man. Vince McMahon's final match ever in his life. He goes out with a win over Austin Theory. That's official, right? That's official. It's in the record book. I'd love to see this record book one day, but it's in the record book. But McAfee is not a full-time performer. He won his last match. Corbin lost his. And so he put all that together, and Corbin is still the full-time guy. Corbin is the one they chose. They handpicked him to retire Kurt Angle at WrestleMania last year. He beat Kurt Angle in his final match. They chose him to be the one to retire Kurt Angle, which is still a mind-bogglingly stupid decision. Even Kurt Angle thinks, like, if he can go back in time, he wished he could do it all over again. We know he wanted John Cena. I think a lot of people wanted John Cena. So, you may not be a fan of Corbin. I'm not Corbin's biggest fan either. I think that, it's more honestly the gimmick and the stuff that he's been doing. Corbin, in the ring as a worker, is actually fine. And I actually think he's a pretty good heel. I think Corbin should get the win here. Based on what they did tonight, he got the last laugh on McAfee by kicking him in the nuts. It makes me think that they're going to give McAfee the feel-good win. But I think it should be Corbin. I think that McAfee is going to have a great showing. He always does. And I think he'll come close to victory. But remember, as I said earlier, when I mentioned the Brogue Kick, and I mentioned Sheamus, the End of Days is one of the most protected finishing moves in the entire company. He could hit that move from out of nowhere and pin Pat McAfee 1, 2, 3. And I think that's what happens in this match. I think he hits the End of Days out of nowhere and he picks up the win. McAfee loses nothing if he goes in there and has a good showing. He can go on commentary next Friday and say, look, I'm disappointed in the outcome, but hell of a fight by Baron Corbin, bum-ass Corbin. I got to give the guy credit. The guy's double tough. You got to put Corbin over. Corbin is your full-time performer. Pat McAfee is not. Corbin is the one who needs a win, not McAfee. We have the Usos defending the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championship against the Street Profits with Nashville's own Jeff Jarrett as the special guest referee. We know the Usos already won their match with the Profits and Money in the Bank, which was only a few weeks ago. And it was under dubious circumstances, right? One of the shoulders was up, the referee missed it. But they already beat the Street Profits. They beat the Street Profits again on Monday, even though Roman pinned Riddle. It was a six-man tag. The Usos won, the Street Profits lost. So the Bloodline has been dominant now for months. Probably a little too dominant. I think the gold is going to stay in the Bloodline, but not this gold. This is not the gold I am referring to when I say that. And actually, I think that an Uso loss here would be the start to what they could try to convince fans is a bad night for the Bloodline. Oh, the Usos lost their championships. They lost their Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships. What does this mean for Roman Reigns? Is this going to be a bad night for the Bloodline going into the main event? They could really play it up that way. So if they lose here, and I think they will, you can even help build your main event, build some doubt in your main event a little bit more, and do that. So I'm going with the Street Profits for the win. I think they give them the win finally after all of these attempts. How many times are they supposed to lose before you kill these guys dead? Right? You give them the feel-good moment, give the fans the feel-good moment here in Nashville. The problem, you're going to run into the same problem regardless of who wins this match. Whoever wins this match, WWE has a very big problem. Let's say the Usos retain their tag team titles here in this match, right? We come out of we come out of SummerSlam here. The Usos win. Who do they defend their titles against next? Who's next on the list? WWE doesn't have rankings like AEW does, where I can go to the website and see who's in the rankings, even though it feels like they don't always follow their own rankings. So I don't even know off the top of my head who all the tag teams are anymore, right? I should, because it's the same fucking ones that we see over and over again, right? It's the Usos, it's the New Day, it's the Street Profits, it's the Alpha Academy, and now we have the new and improved, vicious Viking Raiders. Who else is there? Who am I missing? That's it. That's basically it. That's basically the entire tag team division. If the Usos win, are we going to get the Usos and the New Day again? Because they just did an injury angle with Xavier Woods. It looks like he's going away for a while. So we don't even have the New Day now. Take the New Day out of the equation. Rick Boogs got hurt at WrestleMania. We had Boogs and Nakamura, right? They're not a team anymore. Who is left for the Usos to defend their titles against? Give me another babyface team. Give me another babyface team that you can plug in there against the Usos. It's slim pickings. One of the things I'm hoping that Triple H will work on is improving the tag team division here in WWE. When was the last time AEW followed the rankings? Oh, I don't know. It's a good question. But I like them because they at least list out who the teams are. So I can go to the website and say, okay, here we go. These are the top 5 teams that they have in the company. I can't even do that in WWE. Now, let's say the Street Profits win, which I think they will. Let's say the Street Profits win the tag team titles, right? What are you left with? You're left with rematches with the Usos. You're left with Chad Gable and Otis. And I like Chad Gable and Otis, but They're not exactly booked at a high level. And you've got the Vikings. That's it. So either way, whoever wins this match is still going to lose because the tag team division is shit in this company. And it's going to take a while for them to really build this thing back up because they have not placed an emphasis on introducing new tag teams like they should have been doing. So it almost doesn't even matter who walks out with these belts. So go for the happy moment, I say, and the Street Profits I think are gonna get their win. Whatever that little tease was with Jeff Jarrett tonight, again, they wanted to plant some kind of a seed that maybe now he's going to be biased towards the Street Profits because he got kicked in the face by Jey Uso. Maybe it'll be a swerve and we find out he's in the Bloodline's back pocket. It's possible. Maybe it's one of those Triple H surprises he wants to throw at you, but I think the Profits, it's do or die. I know all the rumors have been out there about Montez Ford is going to break out on his own as a single. He is. Montez Ford is going to break out, and he is going to be a big single star, way more than Angelo Dawkins. And Montez Ford may well end up being a world heavyweight champion in these next couple of years. That doesn't mean that they're going to split tomorrow night. We have Liv Morgan defending the Smackdown Women's Championship. Are people really saying that Dolph and AJ, they teamed up for 1 week, and you're going to tell me that Dolph Ziggler and AJ Styles are a tag team? Dolph Ziggler has been fucking with Austin Theory. That is his main program right now. He teamed with AJ for exactly 1 match. Don't tell me that Dolph Ziggler and AJ Styles are now a tag team. I don't care if they had 5 matches in the last month on TV. Dolph Ziggler and AJ Styles are not a tag team. Don't give me that shit. His name is Dolph, by the way, not Dolphin. You're thinking of the guy from Reddit who always leaks the information. So Liv Morgan defends a SmackDown Women's title against Ronda Rousey. If we are being perfectly honest with each other, right, because it's just you and me, there's nobody else around. If we're being perfectly honest here, Ronda Rousey, I mean, this should be a walk in the park for her. This shouldn't even be competitive. This should be Ronda going in there and murdering Liv Morgan and ending her in 60 seconds, 90 seconds at the most. Realistically, that's what this should be. But that's not what this is going to be. It would be very deflating to a big segment of the audience who really like Liv Morgan if they just turn around and take that championship off of her when she just won it only a few weeks ago, Money in the Bank. I mean, it was this month that she won the title from Ronda Rousey. So that would be one way to really piss off your audience if you did that. The only way that I see her making it out of this month as the champion is if we see the return of Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair got married a couple of months ago. That's why she took time off. She is in Nashville. She's going to be at her father's final match. Her father's final match on Sunday. So we know she's in town. We know she's probably coming back any week now. And again, we've been saying the same thing about Bayley now for how many months? But Charlotte Flair showing up and costing Ronda Rousey the championship, getting revenge on Ronda Rousey, the woman who beat her at WrestleMania Backlash and took that championship away from her. That is the only way that I see Liv Morgan getting out of this with that championship. I think that's what happens here. I think it probably means a disqualification finish for this match. I don't think we're going to get a clean finish in this match. I think it's probably going to be a DQ. I think Charlotte is going to be the reason. And Liv Morgan is probably going to be stuck in a 3-way feud in between these two women. I think it'll be Charlotte, Ronda, with Liv as the unlikely champion in between. And we'll probably end up with some triple threats. That's what I am envisioning coming out of this. The longer term play here, the way I book this, long term, Ronda Rousey turns heel. Could be tomorrow night. But the long-term play here should be a heel turn for Ronda Rousey on the SmackDown side. And that gets her ready for a singles match at WrestleMania next year with a newly babyface at the time, Becky Lynch. There should be a double turn between now and WrestleMania next year, and we get that singles match that we never got before. We were going to get it at WrestleMania 35, or so we thought. Actually, we were going to get it at Survivor Series in 2018. And then Nia Jax broke Becky's face, and that's how we ended up with Ronda and Charlotte for the first time. But then, WrestleMania 35, it was going to be Becky, it was going to be Ronda, and then they shoehorned Charlotte in there. That was WrestleMania 35. That was 2019. So we're talking about WrestleMania 39 in 2023. So we're talking 4 years later, we might finally be able to get that singles match between Becky and Ronda, and it's lost a lot of steam. I don't know if they can get back to that level of interest they had. 4 years is a long fucking time. But I think you do a double turn between now and then, and that's the match that you build to at WrestleMania next year. But the destination should be a heel turn, I think, for Ronda Rousey. I think that's going to be a role that's going to suit her a lot better, and we saw a little bit of that tonight when she mouthed off to the fan in the front row. Heel Ronda. That is the way to go. And if she beats Liv Morgan clean tomorrow night, what do you think kind of reaction she's going to get? Liv Morgan has a lot of fans. They're going to boo her like she's a heel anyway. So maybe it doesn't happen tomorrow. Maybe Charlotte gets involved, like I said. That's my prediction. And she costs her the match. But that's the longer-term play here. And for the final time, or so they say, and actually, you know what? This might actually be the final time. If Brock Lesnar leaves after this pay-per-view, we don't know how long Brock has left on his deal. This could be it for him. Vince McMahon is gone, and maybe Brock just doesn't want to stick around anymore. I don't know. So it could very well end up being the final match if Brock leaves. But we have Brock Lesnar challenging Roman Reigns nearly 700 days as Universal Champion in a last man standing match for the Unified WWE Universal Championship. This is going to be their, sixth match, maybe fifth or sixth match, I think, together. It feels like a lot more than that, but I think it's their fifth or sixth match coming up. And at WrestleMania, I said, I'm looking forward to this match because it really did feel like the biggest possible match that they could do. The two biggest stars in the company, the two biggest stars in wrestling, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, champion against champion, title for title. They did a good job of making it feel like a major league main event. And then they went in there and they had what I thought was a very underwhelming, disappointing match. But they did it, and Roman beat him. Roman pinned him, and Roman became the unified champion. And here we are now at SummerSlam, and we're right back to Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns yet again. Only this time it's last man standing, so they shook it up with a new stipulation this time. But that's how we got back to this point, because Randy Orton got hurt, and because they've done a very piss-poor job of building up any other credible challengers for Roman. Roman has been steamrolling people now for years. I can't even say months now. It's years. Roman Reigns won this championship. I mean, it was the pay-per-view after SummerSlam, right? It was Payback, I think. Was it Payback? I want to say it was Payback. Back in 2020. So now here we are 2 years later. And Roman Reigns is still the champion. He has beaten everybody that they have put in front of him. From Jey Uso to Kevin Owens to Daniel Bryan, Edge, Cesaro, Big E. I mean, you name him, he's knocked them down. Matt Riddle, we just saw that on TV a few weeks ago. Brock Lesnar. So now, what do you do for a finish here? We've already seen Roman beat Brock. Are you going to repeat the same finish you did at WrestleMania? You're going to put the championships back on Brock? What does that accomplish? All this talk about Roman's reduced schedule, he barely shows up anymore. I mean, is Brock Lesnar going to be any better? We don't even know if Brock is going to stay in the company. Not going to put your championships on Brock Lesnar. That would be the wrong move. That would be a bad decision on their part. So what do you do? What do you do for a finish here? We already know Drew McIntyre. He's got that title shot in his back pocket for Clash at the Castle. They wanted you to think we might get Lesnar and McIntyre in Cardiff. That's how they ended SmackDown tonight. That's what you call a tease. That's all it is. We're not going to get Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre, two baby faces. We're not going to do that. We saw that at WrestleMania a few years ago. Wasn't very good. Now, I know it was in an empty warehouse. Maybe they would have had a longer match if it was in front of fans, but they had a match. It sucked. Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre have also had one match before, and it was excellent. They had that match at Survivor Series a few years ago. It was a great match. And I even said at the time, I look forward to these two getting back in the ring together at some point. I want to see these two have a match again. Well, they took the scenic route, but we're here finally where it looks like we're going to get Roman Reigns against Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre is going to be, going into that show, he's going to be the ultimate babyface. He'll be, maybe not on the same level, but he'll be what the Bulldog was when he walked into Wembley at SummerSlam 30 years ago. This is the first UK stadium show in 30 years. Well, on that last stadium show, the Bulldog walked in there. He was the hometown hero. He had the Union Jack. He had Lennox Lewis walking down to the ring with him. He won the Intercontinental title. The place exploded. 80,000 people, more than we'll even have in Cardiff. They had even more people at Wembley. You want McIntyre to be in there with the ultimate heel. You don't want there to be any question about who's going to be cheered in this match. Roman Reigns is the final boss. He's the ultimate final boss. He is the only person who should be in that ring with Drew McIntyre in September. Nobody else would make sense. Austin Theory. You think they're going to put Austin Theory against Drew McIntyre in the main event of their big stadium show? I understand that most of the tickets are already sold, but still. Does that feel like the biggest possible main event that you could give these people, their first stadium show in 30 years? You're going to put Austin Theory in there against Drew McIntyre? Why don't you just give the results away? Why even have the match? Just hand the title to Drew now. No, it should be Drew McIntyre one-on-one against Roman Reigns. Now, you can't do pinfalls here because this is last man standing. There's no disqualifications in a last man standing match, so I do think we're going to see Theory come out. And I think we're going to see him attempt to cash in his Money in the Bank, but he won't actually cash it in. The bell will never ring to make it official, to make it a triple threat. I think that he'll get involved here in this match, but it won't be a situation where he'll actually end up cashing in. He'll get put down. Reigns is down. Lesnar is down, however it happens. Roman makes it back to his feet just in the nick of time. He barely beats the count. He beats out Brock Lesnar, and Roman Reigns retains his Universal and WWE Championships. So Roman Reigns, I think, is going to get out of SummerSlam still as the champion here. And, you know, I genuinely believe that the right move to make, if we assume that Cody is going to be cleared to come back in time for the Royal Rumble, that the right move to make is to have Cody Rhodes come back, win the Royal Rumble, go to WrestleMania, and win the championship. Whoever it's against. Ideally, it would be Roman. I would love it if Cody was the one to put down Roman. Because I know they want The Rock. I still think it's very unlikely that The Rock will be in for a match. I mean, you never know. If he is, it doesn't have to be for the championship. Rock would be the biggest possible opponent for Roman Reigns, but in terms of current roster people, Cody Rhodes should be that person. There's a great story there for them to tell. And so in a perfect world, it would have been Cody in that position, and Cody beats Roman, wins the championship at WrestleMania. Do you really want to see Roman Reigns hold that championship all the way through WrestleMania next year? 3 straight WrestleManias uninterrupted? I don't know that we can really tolerate much more of it. How often is Roman even going to be showing up? By Clash at the Castle, Roman needs to drop at least one of those titles. And I do think by the time we get to Survivor Series, those titles won't be unified anymore because they're going to have to do the whole Raw versus SmackDown thing. And we joked about this on one of the streams a few weeks ago. It's like, what are you going to do? Roman against Roman if he's got both belts? So I think those belts will be de-unified, before then. But it's time for a change. I mean, we are experiencing major changes in this company right now, but I think in terms of the championship, it's time for a change. But that change is not going to happen tomorrow night. So Roman is going to retain. As far as Austin Theory, does he cash in? Does he not cash in? I would not have Theory cash in tomorrow night. I would have him come out. I would have him tease it, but whether he gets speared or F5'd or Dolph Ziggler gets involved or Drew McIntyre stops him, whatever it is. Yeah, this guy's got a target on his back. It wouldn't shock me if a whole bunch of people came out and kind of beat up on him. You could have Dolph and Drew and Lashley and who was the other person? He was insulting somebody else on TV. However it all goes down. He comes out, he wants to cash in, he attempts to, but he never gets to cash in. Why blow the briefcase so soon after he won it? Money in the Bank was only a few weeks ago. He could carry that thing for up to a year. Let's say Cody goes to WrestleMania next year and he beats whoever the champion is, even if it's not Roman. You could even do a story. Cody gets that big moment, right? And then maybe on Raw the next night. Theory cashes in his Money in the Bank, the Raw after WrestleMania, and he takes the championship from Cody Rhodes. And Cody gets a full 24 hours to enjoy his championship run, and then Cody is in the position where he now has to chase to try to get his belt back. You could even do that. Why does Theory have to cash in so soon? Why does he have to cash in so quickly? If it were me, if I had Brock Lesnar in the main event with Roman Reigns, that's the last match I'd want to cash in after. I'd let those guys go in there, beat the hell out of each other. I'd sit back and take my time. I got a full year. What is this obsession with trying to cash it in within, a matter of hours or a matter of weeks? So he doesn't have to cash in tomorrow night. And I think he's going to hold on to that briefcase for a little while longer. Be a little more creative with it. Don't just blow it. Don't blow it so quickly. There's no rush. So anyway, I think that's the full card. I think I pretty much hit on all of the important matches there. We'll see what they do with Seth. We'll see if they add anything. Maybe there's a pre-show match they add at the last minute. Maybe they will do AJ and Ciampa or something. Kevin Owens is another one. There's so many names that are off the card. I know Sami Zayn, I think, has a minor arm injury. When we saw him in a sling on SmackDown last week, apparently that was legit. But it's not considered to be serious, so he's hurt. Walter and Nakamura for the Intercontinental title. I thought they might put that on the pay-per-view. But the Intercontinental title continues to not be defended on these pay-per-views. I believe the last time the Intercontinental title was defended on a pay-per-view may well have been WrestleMania last year. And that's one of those things that I would hope that under a Triple H regime, we might start to see the Intercontinental title and the U.S. title be taken more seriously and be elevated to a higher position of prominence. Triple H, I know, is a big fan of Walter, so I think that bodes very well for his future. But it is ridiculous that this championship cannot be defended on pay-per-views. It's almost like there's some kind of bylaw in WWE that says the Intercontinental title is not allowed to be defended on pay-per-views. It just kind of feels that way. So there were a lot of matches I thought they might add that they didn't, but I don't have a huge problem with them keeping the card somewhat lean, because maybe that means that we will be able to call it an early night so I can get my review started at a reasonable time tomorrow night. But as I mentioned earlier, I am going to be going live on Saturday and Sunday. That, of course, is the Ric Flair pay-per-view. But tomorrow night will be the SummerSlam review. As soon as the pay-per-view is off the air, and then Sunday night, we talk about Ric Flair's last, which could very well end up being literally his last match. But hopefully he will make it through in one piece. I am sure that Double J and Jay Lethal will take good care of him. And Andrade will do all of the heavy lifting in that match, I would think. Actually, you know what? Before I even get to you, I'm going to go through all of your super chats. So if you have SummerSlam comments, questions, predictions of your own, get them on in. But there was one thing I did want to mention here just before we go on, because it does mean a lot to me. Tomorrow is actually the 3-year anniversary. And I know a lot of you guys have been fans of the podcast for a long time, so you probably remember when I made the announcement 3 years ago that the book came out. But it was 3 years ago tomorrow that my mother became a published author. I was able to get her book officially published. The Adventure of Hardy the Horse. It's a children's book, an illustrated children's book. She had worked on this story many, many, many years ago. And over the years had tried to get it published and didn't have a lot of success. And as many of you know, she passed away in 2018. But I had vowed, even when she was sick, I had vowed, because I know it bothered her that she wasn't able to get the story published. And I said, this story will get published one way or the other. I promise you that. And it was 3 years ago that the book became available, and she is officially a published author in the Library of Congress. And a lot of you have bought the book, and it's a great book if you either know somebody who has young children or you have young kids, nieces, nephews. The book is available on Amazon. I would go to Amazon, and you can search for The Adventure of Hardy the Horse. I'm very proud of this. It's honestly, yeah, it's appropriate. There you go, Oscar, with the double thumbs up on the screen. Hey, thank you, Evan Smith, for the sub. But honestly, it's probably the thing that I have done in my life that I'm most proud of is getting this story published and getting it out to as many people as possible. So I just wanted to mention that anniversary, which is coming up tomorrow. I can't believe it's already been 3 years. But if you are new here, if you are not familiar with the story behind this, and again, if you have kids or know someone who does, it could make for a great gift. There's an ebook version as well, but you can't replicate the physical copy. You got to be able to see the illustrations in all their glory. Mark Polton did a tremendous job with it. He's a big wrestling fan. And he's done illustrations for other wrestling books, Eddie Edwards. I mean, it was great to have him on board for this project. So, again, definitely check that out. Now we get to your Super Chats. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Let us find out. Oh, how appropriate that we begin with our boy Fire Panda. $10 super chat. Fire Panda she was going nuts the other night, dropping super chats. Wouldn't even let me get out of here. We had a whole super chat battle going on at the end of the Dynamite stream. I'll be disappointed if my prediction of Theory cashing in successfully and then losing the next night does not happen. But if it does, then I request a shout out on the next stream. So that would be the idea that Theory loses. Well, it wouldn't be the next night, it would be Monday. But Roman, I mean, what's the pitch? Is the pitch that Roman then immediately wins the belts back? Because that'd be kind of lame, right? Think about it. If McIntyre is going to win the championships in Cardiff, we've come this far, right? Almost 700 days. Roman loses it, the streak ends, and then he immediately gets the belts back, and then loses it to Drew in September. It would take a lot of the steam, I think, out of Drew's win. Fire Panda, holy crap, Fire Panda firing off the super chats here. The queen of super chats is ready to defend her crown. And we've got greetings to everybody. That is from Fire Panda. Yeah, let's get those likes up. I think we're closing in on 400. We have a lot more than that in here. How many we got in here right now? We got a lot more than that in here, so we can get those likes on up here. We have got off leather wings with the $4.99. Future topic idea, top 5 or 10 favorite wrestlers. I'm not asking you to make a list now, but I would love to hear you rank the others. It's an idea. I would consider it. I have got a whole bunch of different countdown topics and ideas that people have sent in to me, so it's just a matter of which one I want to go with next. Fire Panda. If it does not happen, then you and the chat can have a laugh at me for getting the outcome very wrong. Now we won't laugh at you. Ronda Rousey's theme should be Doink the Clown's theme. Dylan Sheridan with the $10. Thank you, Dylan. Hi from Ireland. Listeners since 2014. First time messaging. Just wanted to say thank you, Solomonster, for your consistently quality content. Let's hope we can say that about WWE in a year or so. I'm hopeful we can say that about WWE tomorrow night. I have faith in Triple H. James Cooper with the 1999 Super Chat. Couldn't catch SmackDown tonight, but from segments on YouTube, it looks like just a lot more fun vibe on this show. I think SummerSlam will be a good showcase of what to expect from Triple H. I am on team Doofus Son-in-Law. Thank you, James. Rodimus Prime, actually looking forward to SummerSlam tomorrow night. Solid card indeed. Yeah, like I said earlier, I am looking forward to the show tomorrow night. Fire Panda, give us your best serious Ronda Rousey face. I can't. I don't have the black makeup like she was wearing tonight, so. Dr. Scorpio. I forgot SummerSlam is tomorrow. Not used to it being in July. Also glad we didn't get a model runway show. Shin Akuma, what's going on? Thank you for the $2, Shin. I appreciate it. The Outside Line with the $5. I hope tomorrow is a good show. Wondering who will take on Seth. Also, it'll be interesting if Brock beats Roman. I think that convinced him to come back. Ah, I see. So there was some question as to what exactly WWE promised Brock to get him to come back after he walked out. And it's Brock. So I don't really think he gives a shit about wins and losses. I think he cares about one thing, which is money. So I assume he must have gotten some kind of sweet deal out of it. Do you think that maybe he was promised a win at SummerSlam? I honestly don't think he cares. I think as long as he gets paid well, I don't think he gives a shit about that. Clapstick77, Vince Russo swears that Vince is still in charge and he'll be back. What say you? Well, Vince Russo, saying that he thinks that he's in charge, I'm not surprised by that. That's probably the Vince that he was referring to, was himself. He's got to say that to stay relevant. Jamie Dorsch, better SummerSlam match, Triple H against Shawn Michaels or John Cena versus AJ Styles. I was in the building for that John Cena AJ match in 2016. That's one of the best live matches that I've ever seen. The Triple H and Shawn match, though, that was Shawn's comeback match. Man, that was a great one too. A lot of emotion going into that match. I gotta tell you, that's a tough one. A little bit biased because I was in the building at the Barclays Center for the Cena one, and I'm still shocked that AJ got that as clean of a win as he did over Cena that night. Oh, that's tough. I probably would go with the Shawn and Triple H match, but they're both excellent matches. Ryan Martins, if you had to guess who returns tomorrow, well, we just went through the whole SummerSlam thing. I think that Charlotte Flair probably makes an appearance. I think of all the names, if somebody is going to return, I think Johnny Gargano he's in Nashville. We already know he's in Nashville. I think he might be doing some kind of a one-man show or something on Sunday. I might have to go with Johnny Wrestling. Iceman 38. Hey Solomonster, great show as always. So with Triple H making WWE the place to be again, do you think AEW will end up like WCW? I feel they will. No. It would take a lot of ineptness on the part of Tony Khan for AEW to become the next WCW, and I think if that happens, we are years away from that happening, so no. WCW was a pit of shit at the end. AEW is not a pit of shit. So that is not going to happen. BCom see clearly. So did Roman really go off script because he didn't want to work with Theory? And Motor City Machine Guns are the most underrated tag team ever. Roman going off script. I mean, he had a line about Theory, missing his daddy on Monday. I thought it was a great line and has nothing to do with him not wanting to work with Theory. So I don't know where you got that from. Shin Akuma, thank you for the $4. Morton. Seth Rollins against Gable Steveson tomorrow. I hope not. Hyru with the $10 super chat. Another name I want to throw into the hat is Wesley. Riddle did help MSK get their mojo back when MSK was a thing. I know it's not going to be Wes, but I would be happy. I think he's very underrated. Wesley and Seth Rollins one day is going to be a hell of a match, but that is not going to be tomorrow night. The line drive. If the mystery opponent is Gargano, would you see him interacting with Theory? Try and rehabilitate the bad heat that he has with a Way reunion. No, I don't. Fire Panda. Jake Paul will run in and cost Miz the match. Interesting. Jake Paul has a fight coming up in Madison Square Garden, I think, in about a week. So you think he'll do a run-in and help his brother win? How much do you think that's going to cost WWE? Makes me sick, though, just thinking of all the money that they are probably throwing at the Paul brothers. Matthew Dinkins was in Nashville last weekend for my best friend's bachelor party. What a fun location for SummerSlam. I have never been to Nashville. I've never been to Music City. I have heard good things about it, but I've never been. And perhaps people who live there or have been there can fill me in on exactly what there is to do. Like if you are visiting for the first time, what do you recommend are the places to go see, activities to go do? Food Hive just came in to hit that like button for the stream. Say what's up to the chat and ask all of you what was for dinner. Shout out. Saw Nope twice and loved it. Always good to hear from Food Hive. Yeah, I'm hearing good things about Nope. I'll wait until it hits on demand. Amiibo Guru, buy, sell, rent. Shield Evolution Bloodline. I'm buying on the Shield. I am going to... Oh, gosh. I'm going to buy on the Shield. I'm going to... rent... Oh, my God. You stumped me. Buy the Shield, rent, Evolution, sell the Bloodline. Shin Akuma, the Solomonster, over 15 years, the revolutionary force in podcast entertainment. Thank you, Shin. Justin Jack with the $5. Against my better judgment, I'm going to try and watch SummerSlam and hope that they use this opportunity to win back some of their lapsed fans. Well, then you can come on by when the show is over and we could all talk about it. Hyru, if the Street Profits win, call up Legado del Fantasma. They've been in NXT long enough. I think with Triple H in charge now, we're going to start to see some more NXT call-ups. Because they have to fill out that tag team division. They have to fill it out more. Joseph Brooks, when Montez wins his first singles title, should he already be a heel or can he start as a face first and then become a heel? Either way, it doesn't matter. I think that I think one day he can be a very good heel. I actually feel the same way about Bianca, Bianca Belair. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether he's a heel or a face. I think it's only a matter of time before he ends up in that spot. Fire Panda, if it's not Drew, Seth, Orton, Cody, Brock, Theory, I think then it has to be The Rock that beats Roman. I mean, The Rock can beat Roman. It does not have. It should not be for the championship. Rock does not need the championship. We've already told that story of Rock coming back after 10 years and winning the championship. So if they want Rock to beat Roman, which, I mean, I get it if they want Rock to get a big win, but It cannot be for the championship. Fire Panda says, LOL, Ryback. Griga, thank you for the 5. Appreciate that. Wano Campo with the $4.99. Why not do 2 debuts in the same card? Sikoa as the mystery opponent. Usos retain. They want a new team. Out comes Johnny Sameface with Ciampa to reform DIY. Because it makes no sense based on what Ciampa's been doing with Miz. And Triple H can do whatever he wants. If he wants to pull the plug on that, I think that's fine. I think it was awkward to begin with. It does not at all fit Ciampa's character, but you got to phase that out. You can't just, to just end it cold turkey like that. I think you need a real resolution and wrap up the stuff with Ciampa and Miz on TV properly before you potentially put Gargano and Ciampa back together. But you make a great point. If Gargano does come back, Ciampa's already on the main roster. It would be very easy for them to reunite DIY. And all of a sudden, you've got not just the new team, you've got a great fucking tag team. Imagine the matches that we could get with DIY and the Usos. DIY and the New Day. I like that idea. Joseph Brooks, I saw this YouTube video of Ford and Cody riding along in a truck. What if one day in the future, Cody and Ford could have a feud for the WWE title and Ford is the heel? I think that would be fantastic. Shinakuma, thank you for the 2. Anti-M Bishop 07. Evening Solomonster, would you ever do an audio version of your mother's book for Audible? That would be too sweet. All the best. I've had people ask me about that before. And probably not. Not because I wouldn't be interested in doing it, but because with rights and everything, there are issues with that. So I'm going to say no. But maybe one day, maybe not on Audible, but maybe in a different format, I would definitely be open to that. I've thought about that before. 420 Baked Chicken says, buying first mini horse tomorrow, naming him Hardy. Well, that's very cool. Buying a horse, huh? Darth Panic, with Vince gone, quote unquote, how will this affect the Saudi shows moving forward? They won't. They're going to continue on. It's a lot of money. $50 million per show is what they get for each of those. So you think they're going to just stop going to Saudi Arabia all of a sudden? They've already established a presence over there. They have a lot of fans over there who expect to see WWE coming twice a year. We've got, in fact, our boy Fawaz. I don't know if he's with us live, but Fawaz is a big Sound Off fan. He's always at the shows. He's always bringing those Sound Off signs. But I don't see anything changing. Joseph Brooks, who is the greatest one-time WWE champion of all time? One-time champion? I don't know. All of my favorites have been champion at least twice. Macho Man was champion twice. I'm trying to think, one-time champion. Even Flair. Flair was a 2-time champion. Brett, Shawn, Angle, Lesnar, Rock, Austin. I mean, maybe Daniel Bryan, maybe Daniel Bryan. Base Salvi, thank you for the buck. Mr. J, will Tony Khan get Shane McMahon to sit in the audience at a Dynamite? I mean, what would the purpose of that be? It's just a waste of time. So, no. Eddie is a good one. I completely forgot about Eddie. Yeah, you know what? It probably would be. It would probably be either Eddie Guerrero or Daniel Bryan for me. We've got Tokes Kazim. I will mail Triple H a big bag of shit if Bianca lost. Yes, but would it be a flaming bag of shit? That's the question. Gabriella Valentine, what's going on, Gabriella? Thank you for the $2. Glad to see that you are looking and feeling great. I appreciate that. Took a while for me to shake off that stupid cough, but I think I'm pretty much over it at this point. Now the challenge is just to make sure we stay healthy for the House of Glory show next month. I can't miss that show. I missed the last one. I'm still pissed that I missed the last Hog show, but this House of Glory show coming up at the end of next month, August 28th, we're going to be on Fight TV. You all, if you're not at Terminal 5 in New York City, you better be ordering this pay-per-view. This card is unreal so far. This is the biggest show in House of Glory history. Coming up on August 28th. We've got, Eddie Kingston. I just found out Eddie Kingston will be back. We've got Low Key against Killer Cross. We've got Jacob Fatu against Brody King to crown the new House of Glory world champion. We've been without a world champion for a few years now. After the pandemic, and the championship was vacant, so now we're going to crown a new champion between Fatu and Brody King. We got Naomichi Marufuji coming in that night from Japan. That's going to be huge. I mean, I don't even have the full card in front of me, but it is outstanding. And now, just announced the other day, the match that was supposed to happen many months ago, but didn't because of injury, it's finally going down. First time ever. Malachi Black of the House of Black, one-on-one with the Amazing Red. And that is just a taste of what is going to be on this card. So I cannot miss this show. I need to be healthy. I need to be back in the saddle. Because if I get sick again right before that show, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to cry. Johnny A with the $10 super chat. Just celebrated my 50th on Wednesday. Happy birthday to Johnny. Big 5-0. That means you're half a century old. Your passion and delivery shows you are never too old to enjoy this. Thanks for what you do. You are the GOAT of wrestling podcasts. Johnny, that means a lot. I appreciate that very much, and I sincerely wish you a happy belated 50th birthday. I hope that you did something fun for it, and I appreciate the kind words. Oh, IG the King in the chat says he went to the one with Malachi and Buddy. Yeah, that was the one where we had some either people missed the show or some injuries. We had to reshuffle the card, and we ended up with that was the red injury actually. So we ended up with Malachi against Buddy. Now Malachi and Buddy are part of the House of Black. The whole House of Black will be there. House of Black will be at Terminal 5, but just announced the other day it'll be Malachi and Amazing Red. So. We've got Base Salvi. Are casuals still drawn to Lesnar against Reigns, or are they tired of seeing it? Or why do you believe WWE keeps booking that match? Because they believe it's the biggest possible match that they could do. And because they have not built up anybody else who they have enough trust in to put in that spot. Very simple. They believe that is still the biggest possible match that they can do. And I say that that is an indictment on the company for not creating new stars that are big enough to step in, and for them to say, okay, this person's name is big enough where we can put them in the SummerSlam main event and sell tickets and do business. The fact they have to keep going back to the same people, that's not good. And that is completely the fault of WWE. That is their own fault for not creating in their minds stars that are big enough to step in there and replace a Brock Lesnar in a situation like that. Fire Panda, weird question. What is the tag match that you would book for WrestleMania next year? You could use any tag team in WWE or NXT from today. To go to the point that was made a little while ago, I love the idea of putting DIY back together, and I would do DIY against the Usos. Or you could even do a three-way, DIY, the Usos, and the New Day at WrestleMania. I mean, that's a classic right there. Dr. Scorpio, I got Liv beating Ronda clean, no interference. All right, well, you're going out on a limb there. I respect it. I think you're wrong, but I respect you taking that risk. Winter's Paw with the 10 spot. Thank you, Winter's Paw. I don't think we can fully judge the Triple H era until after the draft. He will have the rosters that he wants, and hopefully some bigger names will have returned from it, likely Bayley and Io. Honestly, it's going to be even longer than that, I think, before we can really kind of do a report card on the Triple H era. I think you're looking at 6 to 12 months. You know, you may need up to a full year to really fairly judge the Triple H era. So again, it's not going to be an overnight thing. Rome was not built in a day. It's going to take time. This is not an instant reset, vacate all the titles like what they did in WCW with Russo when he took over. It's not that. So it's going to take time. Von Tell with the $2. I think Mello will become a bigger star than Braun. It's very possible. I like both of them. I'm a big fan of Carmelo Hayes. I'm a big fan of Carmelo Hayes. Look at Tony. Look at Tony. Every single stream, every time I go live, Tony is in the nose candy. He can't help himself. He can't stop. I mean, this guy is out of control. He's going to blow all of his money. Fire Panda, I shall agree with my good doctor. Liv goes over clean. I don't know. I don't know about that. Somebody put Diesel on the list of great one-time champions. All right, now you're being ridiculous. I'll tell you what, if we had the tweener version of Diesel that we got the night after he lost the championship, that version of Diesel, I think, could have been a lot of fun to watch. But it came a little too late. A few months later, he was gone from the company. You know, Juan, I think you're right. When I see Tony Khan in those images, he's going to end up like Herb Abrams, chasing hookers around the office with a baseball bat and blow all over the place. Yeah, or order the mug. That's right, Juan. Order the mug. Sound off mug right here, double-sided. Use the link on my link tree. There's another version of this mug that's actually up on Bonfire, but don't buy that one. You want this one. Go to the link tree. You'll see on the bottom it says "Get Mugged." You could order it from there. Could we see a Sasha Banks return tomorrow? Very possible. I'm sure Triple H would love to get her back. I'm sure Triple H would love to make amends with Sasha Banks and Naomi. Rizzo. Sorry I'm late, guys, and forgive me if you answered this, but do you expect any surprise appearances tomorrow? Yes, we did. We did talk about this. I do expect at least one surprise appearance tomorrow. I'll let you rewatch the stream when you have some time so you can enjoy it. I don't want to spoil what I said, so you go back and watch the stream. It's all right there for you. Devin from NJ, channel member for 16 months. Who would win a fight, Brock Lesnar or Ralph Cifaretto? You know, Ralph didn't do too well against Tony on the show, so if he had trouble with Tony, I don't think he's going to fare very well with Brock. Sean O'Hare, sound off legend for the last 10 months. Thanks for the awesome content, Solomonster. Well, thank you, Sean, for being a channel member. I appreciate that. We've got a bunch of new channel members. I want to welcome all of you to the channel. And you will also have one of those badges next to your name in the chat, so I could easily identify all of our channel members with the green names and the badges. And you have those special emojis. Let's see some sound off skulls in this live chat from our channel members. Hunter Peckham with the $5 super chat. Instead of Gargano being Seth's opponent, what if he comes out to make the save after Miz loses and blames Ciampa for the loss and turns on him? Yeah, I mean, any way that you can get Ciampa away from Miz and potentially reunite him and Gargano, I'm all in favor of. I hadn't really thought about a DIY reunion. I was thinking more about them as singles, but I like the idea of putting DIY back together because eventually you can break them up again. And Ciampa could still have a singles run and Gargano could have a singles run. They could have matches against each other. There we go. Look at this. All these emojis in the chat. All that's my beautiful face. All the skulls. All the emojis. I love it. Fire Panda, in your opinion, what should not happen at SummerSlam? Austin Theory should not become the WWE Universal Champion. It's too soon. It's too soon for that to happen. Bobby's World, thank you for the $15, man. Thank you, Bobby. I think Triple H's success will depend on how he continues or how he combines his ideas with Vince's. NXT appeared to be hardcore fans, but Vince's larger-than-life presentation to a mainstream audience worked for him. It worked for him. It didn't necessarily work for everybody else. Yeah, I think all these people who are kind of creaming themselves at these reports that Triple H is going to go back to the black and gold with NXT, when I read that item in the Observer, I didn't come away from that thinking that at all. I read that as they're going to get away from this incredibly stupid edict that I predicted months ago when it was first mentioned was never going to last. That they shy away from indie talents and focus exclusively on young college athletes, people who have not had any experience wrestling before. I think you want a mix of both, and I think Triple H is going to move away from that. He is going to be more open to bringing in indie stars because in NXT, he realized the value of having people like that. He realized the value of having people like Roderick Strong and Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Johnny Gargano, because you can have those guys working with people like Braun Breaker and people like Carmelo Hayes. It's no different than the main roster sending Dolph Ziggler or sending Apollo Crews to go work in NXT. Why do you think they send them there? AJ Styles, right? Working with Grayson Waller. You want to have that veteran experience in there with the younger guys. Otherwise, it's the blind leading the blind. So I didn't come away from what I read in the Observer thinking that we're going back to the black and gold. Everybody's going nuts. Oh, Triple H is going to take NXT back to the black and gold. And I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening when that doesn't happen. Yukio Rules, I know you talked about lottery stuff the other day, so what would your dream car that you would buy be if money was not a problem? Keep up the good work. Well, tonight, actually it's over now. I have to check my numbers, but I could be sitting here a billionaire and not even know it. But tonight was the $1 billion Mega Millions jackpot. I did play. What car would I want? I'm not really a big car guy where I know all the different cars. I know that I'm a big fan of the color Aegean blue. It's a very particular kind of blue. You know, blue is that's why, I mean, see blue in the background behind me right now for SmackDown. Blue is my favorite color. So it probably would be blue. I don't know if it'd be a sports car, maybe. I'm a simple guy. You know what I mean? The car I drive now is old enough where I don't have any of the basic safety features that most people have. You just give me one of those sweet like rear cameras so I can actually see behind me when I'm parking, or side cameras so I don't bump against the curb or something when I'm parallel parking, and I'm a happy guy. Give me some Bluetooth in the car so I can connect my phone. I'll be in heaven. I don't have any of that shit in my car now. So I don't know. I was kind of looking, honestly, I was looking at like a Honda Civic hatch or something. I don't know. When I'm in the market for a new car, because right now apparently is a terrible time to buy a new car. So as long as this one still runs, I'm not in any kind of rush. But if I win, I'll worry about it then. Fire Panda, what's the most mediocre title today? I mean, the 24/7 title is garbage. It's fucking dog shit. So That has to be one of the first orders of business for Triple H, is to get rid of the 24/7 championship. That should be right at the top of his list. All right, let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
It is that time of night where we begin to wind things down, but we do some Be the Booker. And usually we begin with the men, but I think what we'll do this time, maybe we'll change our luck up a little bit. We'll begin with the ladies. Try to book ourselves a few random matches here. We begin on the ladies' side with Jacqueline. My. Look at Jackie. I saw more of Jackie than I've ever seen before at that one UK pay-per-view. Jacqueline, I believe, is wasn't she a light heavyweight champion in WWE? I know she held one of the men's belts. You got Jackie going one-on-one with, oh no, it's Hervina. It's Hervina. Harvey Whippleman in drag. Well, if Jackie won one of the men's belts, then we know Hervina won the women's championship, because that's what he has in his hands there. You know, it's funny, I put that image in there, but I completely forgot about Hervina. Now I know why. Jackie against Hervina. It's an awful match. Now everybody who missed that one episode of Raw like 22 years ago is like, who? Who's Hervina? You got to do your homework. We've got Boombox Brock. Ah, my favorite version of Brock. It's Boombox Brock, everybody. Look at that. He's got the hoodie on. He's got a big smile on his face. What do you think Brock is listening to? Boombox Brock. Going to be stepping into the ring to go one-on-one with Jeff Hardy. Brock Lesnar and Jeff Hardy. Not that we have any doubt about who the winner is going to be, but that's a big match. That could definitely be a main event match. I like that one. So we're 1 for 1 so far. Let's head on over to the tag team side. And we begin here with Too Cool. Grandmaster Sexay. Scotty 2 Hotty. Very, very over. Back during that Attitude Era period, former WWF Tag Team Champions. Going to step into the ring to take on Degeneration X, Shawn Michaels and Triple H. Going to give that the bell. That'd be a pretty good match. Too Cool at their peak of popularity. You see Triple H taking the worm. It's not a bad match. I would say that's a solid TV main event. Solid TV main event indeed. John Moxley, what do you think about that main event?
Fuck Kevin Dunn.
Oh, come on. This guy, he can't get Kevin Dunn out of his head. This guy is obsessed. All right, well, look, we have got a very busy weekend ahead of us. As I mentioned before, we've got SummerSlam coming up tomorrow night. And I'm going to be live as soon as the pay-per-view is over, so figure a little after 11 Eastern. You can come on back here to the channel, hit that sub button, so when I get the event page up, you guys will be notified. I want you to come in. I want you to give it a like. Maybe hang out in the chat. And then we will go live, and then it's Ric Flair's final match. Sunday night. Conrad has put together a very impressive undercard. And the promotion, the build-up for this main event tag team match has been on point. I don't know how the match is going to go, but the build-up for the match has actually been very good. You have seen any of the videos on social media. And I'll be here to cover it all. So episode 767 of the podcast coming up on Sunday. We got a lot of news to get into. WWE, AEW. your mailbag questions, so you can get them on in, the Solomonster@gmail.com. We'll see if maybe I pick one of yours to lose, but we've gone 2.5 hours here, and so I must bid you farewell. Be well, stay safe, have a great night. Follow me on Twitter, @Solomonster. Follow me on TikTok, @Solomonster Sounds Off on TikTok. I think I just opened the account recently. We're about to break 100 followers. We're starting from scratch. So maybe you could be number 100. So Solomonster Sounds Off on TikTok. You can follow on there. And we got a couple of final super chats here. Dr. Scorpio says, I forfeit my rematch against the Super Chat Queen Fire Panda. Unlike Hogan, I put over people more than once. Trying to save and buy a new computer. Well, thank you, Dr. Scorpio. And Fire Panda says, I love you, Mr. Monster. Well, I love you too, Mr. Or Ms. Fire Panda. I appreciate all the love, all the support. And I'm going to go get some sleep. So I will see you back for the SummerSlam review tomorrow. Should be a good show. Take care, guys.